Welcome back. Sports Card Culture Podcast number 11, John.
I like it.
We have, it is January 12th, 2021. Thank God we're out of 2020. Feels like we're out of infancy on this podcast. We're like gaining traction, don't you think? Like we've kind of
I've listened back to all of our podcasts, and I'm at the point now where I like our podcast as a listener.
That's good.
Even though either I said it or you said it, and I knew what we said.
And I'm sure you like what I'm sure you like what you said more, but that's okay.
I don't know about that.
The contrarian in you. You're like,
all right, well, let's start out the way we did last time, and let's just look at sports card investors, the biggest movers. I think that's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I have
lots. Let's just say lots of things are happening in the sports card hobby this last week. Wouldn't you say? I feel like we had 5 years of price movement on some stuff, like even boxes. I got stories. We'll get into that later.
Right.
I had a couple guys over who are like breakers, and I picked their brain on some things, and yeah, it's.
I definitely want to
like
hear that.
Breakers that are looking for product. I had no idea how aggressive and how many people are like fighting for like the little bit of allocate. I mean, it's.
If you're a bigger breaker, I mean, there's people in your room. It's like, what are we opening? Let's do it. Let's go. And if you don't have anything, they're going to lose that.
Yeah.
That customer.
Well, and then I didn't realize this, but some of the guys I know are sitting on a ton of old inventory with how much prices on old boxes are moving up. So then there's this tension of like, at what point do we actually break it? You know what I mean? Like they're holding on to 18 basketball with Luka.
Are they holding on
now
to
Trae
it on
Young's
purpose?
exploding. Yeah, they're holding on to it, let it appreciate. They already ripped
okay.
X amount of it. Or
I didn't know if it was one of those things where like it came out, everybody wanted to rip it in their room, and then all of a sudden it stopped, and they wanted to rip the new thing.
No, it wasn't, and it wasn't because of lack of demand. It was because they actually fought to say, based on trends previous years, unopened wax is moving so aggressively that we're actually gonna free roll our profit into more
and that
inventory
is creating even higher prices.
Which exactly, very unique. So all right,
that's fun. So okay, I got 4 basketball players that just kind of jumped out at me as I just was looking at the points leaders and trying to see names that I didn't recognize.
Yeah,
or didn't really recognize
for sure.
All right, I got 4 names. I got Zach LaVine. 27.7 points, 5 rebounds.
Former Timberwolf, dunk champion.
Yeah, I was sad to see him
Bulls.
go. He was a great player.
Yep. Good.
Jeremy Grant, a guy who I didn't know, and then I went into my stash box and I had a Prism rookie, so I sold that.
Is he like Brian Grant's son or something? Or
he's Horace Grant's nephew.
Horace Grant's nephew.
I'm
sure it was connected to one
basketball
of those.
reference
Nice.
to the win for the win there. Malcolm Brogdon. 23 points, and Julius Randle. Do I have any on the top 10 movers?
You don't, and here's part of the reason. Of the top 10 movers, I only have 1 basketball player this week.
What sport's getting?
So here I'm telling you the last 7 days, price movement percentage by player.
Right.
Number 1, should I start 10 and go down?
Yeah, go 10 and go down.
Number 10. 10. Number 10 is Cam Akers, receiver for the Rams.
No, that makes sense. Running back.
No, running back.
Running back.
Right. He plays kind of like slot, like he splits out.
I was playing Cam Akers in FanDuel and DraftKings 5 or 6 weeks this year.
I'll say this about the NFL: super weird week. You have the Patriots not in the playoffs, and you have for the first time in history, the Browns and the Bills won a playoff game in the same week. It's never happened ever. So it's such a weird year, like, and then the Steelers get beat, like, in a weird game. I mean, so, like, I think some of the Rams, Cam Akers is because they won.
So you're arguing that it's been weird.
Like,
I agree.
This is the most bizarre, like, football playoff year, other than Tom Brady still being in it, who's obviously going to win another ring.
So Cam Akers is not surprising. I've been hot on him for about 6 weeks.
The only basketball player on the list is number 9, and it's Romeo Langford. Rookie last year for Boston.
Boston.
Guard. I mean, he's starting to get more time.
I have a green Prism rookie.
He's like his silvers are way up. I mean, percentage-wise, though, it's not nearly as much as – he's only up 33% in the last 7 days.
Okay.
Number 7 on the list, this I have no idea why, but this is interesting, Miguel Cabrera. Miggy.
No, that didn't surprise me one little bit.
It's not even baseball. The baseball bump's happening already.
Matter.
It's happening early.
He is so close to 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. One of them he's not going
He doesn't
to break
even need
this
it
year.
to be an absolute shoo-in first ballot.
No, he's a Triple Crown winner, too.
Triple Crowns led the league
he's not going to break
in average.
either, right? I thought he was gonna pass one this year and then the other one next year, based on
his last couple seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, just reasonable.
Which, to be honest,
I think home runs he might get.
let me pause and say this is not a sleeper pick,
Okay.
Wyatt. This is not a sleeper pick because this guy's been around for a while. I had somebody call John out the other day for Matt Ryan not being a sleeper.
No, but it is a sleeper. Card wise.
I'll tell you a card sleeper, and it's an absolute freaking travesty how cheap his rookies are. Albert Pujols. How does Luis Robert base tops 10s sell for like half of Albert Pujols?
Yeah, but you can look at Tom Brady and Kyler Murray and say
if Luis Robert has his absolute best possible career, he maybe has 75% of Pujols' numbers, right? I mean, we would say like, wow, he crushed it.
75% of Miguel Cabrera's numbers.
Pujols' numbers will crush.
Oh no,
Cabrera.
fair enough.
But yeah.
I
mean, 625 home runs already, still going, over 3,000 hits. Like the guy's just been a consistent power hitter for he's 40 years old. Or whatever.
Well, I think one of the things about Miggy though is he's been toiling in Detroit.
Terrible fan base. Yeah.
So nobody realized what he's doing, and now he's so close to it. He's gonna break one milestone. Which milestone is it?
He'll get home runs.
Home runs this year.
13.
And then probably next year he'll get hit.
3,000.
Well, then if people are looking at that, I was looking at that.
That's a really rare class. Those two.
Oh, absolutely.
The 3,000 hits.
Yeah, usually
500
it's one or
home
the
runs.
other.
I mean, there aren't a lot of guys that have both. I mean, Bonds doesn't have 3,000 hits.
Right.
So I mean, even like, what does Ruth?
Now we go back into your 3,000 hits, 600 home runs, which I think I remember all three.
There's only 4.
Because he's 4?
4 guys.
A-Rod, Pujols,
Yep.
Hank Aaron. Damn, I never get all 4.
The
Ruth
4th.
Not 3,000.
Nope.
Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth.
No, not Ruth.
Ah, no,
the
he
4th,
has 3,000.
I would argue, is the greatest baseball player of all time. And it's not Barry Bonds, even though you could argue he is too. Willie Mays.
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays
I always
is
forget one. Like, have you ever
probably
played,
the best player all
Have
around.
you ever played the game where you got to write down all 50 states
Yeah, you
in
have to sing
under
the
15
song.
minutes?
Yeah, I have to
And
sing
you're
it.
always too short,
Yeah, it's like,
and you can't figure it out.
I love it.
I do it all the time, and me and my wife do it.
Have you been to all 50 states?
No, I'm not even close.
I'm
My
only
wife's
I'm
pretty
like 4 or
close.
5
She's only
short.
10 away, maybe.
I just haven't done the Northeast. That's it. Maine,
I've done
Connecticut,
Northeast. No, man.
and pretty much Rhode Island. Couple, yeah. Anyway, okay.
so
Next up is Nick Chubb, who obviously not surprising. They got a big win for the Browns. I mean,
Did he do? I missed that whole game. I was doing a live.
he had a few scores, but he wasn't like the
Okay.
focal point. They threw the ball more
He's
than
a
they
very
ran.
good
Everyone
running
thought they
back.
were going to run. I mean,
Fair enough.
that thing got out of control. I've
Well,
never seen a team get punched in the face
Do you
worse.
think?
Probably.
I don't know this, but is the Cleveland fan market like the Minnesota fan market, where
Are they
if they're
depressed?
winning,
Yes.
they get really invested in the sports cards?
I'll say this: when we were in Cleveland for the National 2
Yeah.
year ago, the dog pound, the whole like they're hardcore.
Oh, really?
Man. And they were trying to buy Joe Thomas stuff. I remember a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Like they're just longing for a good player, even like
I'm gonna have to
their best
stash my
player.
Joe
Their
Thomas.
best player forever was an offensive lineman. So I mean, it was just like
Yeah, no doubt.
super.
Well, I'll have to remember that for Cleveland, because Cleveland will be next year then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cleveland will be next year, and to be honest,
And then
like
back to Chicago.
good for them, because you know what it reminded me when they beat the Steelers on Sunday was it reminded me of the 41 donut loss that the Vikings took to the Giants a few years ago, where we fumbled that first kickoff and literally we never regained momentum. Do you remember that? It was
Funny.
just like,
So Steve was over here today. What up, Steve?
what up, Steve?
So he told me he was in Iowa this weekend,
We're going again.
and he told me that he put a bet down on the Steelers to win,
Whoops.
and they were favored by 10.5. And I'm like, you bet on the Steelers when they're favored? I would take the opposite of that bet, no problem.
Yeah.
Because they've just been horrible.
They've been trending down. Browns have been trending up. But no one saw it
10
being
and a
that
half,
lopsided.
though? But
yeah.
here's the thing. This is what I asked Steve, and he said, yeah, a touchdown is a big spread
Yeah.
in football. A touchdown's a big deal.
Yeah.
So 10.5 is just like...
Okay, the next guy. This is going to be a shocker. Next guy on the list, Tyrese Maxey,
Yeah, he had some good games.
who's a rookie this year.
Mm-hmm.
His Prism Draft Silver is up 400%. Wow.
Yeah, but he was probably selling for just about nothing.
He went from basically now the average sale is up to almost $10. So it must have been just
it must have been a couple bucks.
like a 50 cents or
But he was like middle round.
So this is weird.
15,
Like the
16.
last 7 days, it's actually more football than I would have thought.
Well, playoffs.
Michael Pittman for the Colts.
Big fan of Pittman.
Rookie.
And then again they won their game.
No, they lost.
Oh, that's right. They
but
did lose.
but
Played well.
I think the thought is the you know what the rumor is? The rumor is Carson Wentz is going to reunite with Frank Reich, right? Isn't that how you say it? The former quarterback and then offensive coordinator for the Eagles, who left and now is the head coach of the Colts. So they're thinking. I mean, Rivers looked old. I mean, he's probably done.
Well, they did draft Ethan, but we don't know anything about him.
That's the whole thing. So I think some of this is prospecting that this is a playoff team that's on the verge of. If they pick up a quarterback.
So if like Rivers decides to retire, then
they sign
Wentz. Ethan and maybe Winston play because of that one team.
And then they got Jonathan Taylor. They're a good team. I mean, they got some good young talent. They got a great offensive line. So
Taylor had a good year.
The next guy is another Ram, Van Jefferson.
Ooh.
Another rookie from this year, Prism Silver, up 80%. And part of that is might be.
It is very cheap.
Yep, cheap. Yeah. And then the next guy is actually a hockey player from 2017. I'm going to butcher his name. Yamamoto is his last name.
Okay.
Kaler. And then number one on the list, Gabriel Davis for the Bills.
Really?
Gabriel Davis is number one. Now, this is the last 7 days. I'm going to go to 14 and see if we have
any
much
big,
difference.
Weird changes on that.
Gabriel Davis is still number one. Guess who's number two, though? The guy on your list, Julius Randle, if we go to 14.
Okay.
And if we go to 14, Malcolm Brogdon is next.
Okay.
So,
I was just looking at, and this is a very simple way of looking at movers, is you go, hey, let me look at the scoring leaders, and then whose name do I not recognize?
No, not recognize.
You know? And Levine, like, I'm not saying I don't recognize him. Obviously, I know who Zach Levine is, and I like him, but he wasn't a big banger in cards. And so if he's averaging 27
this
points.
Guy, I can't believe where he's at. And I know this only because a customer was in. He was showing me he was auctioning a base Prism Draft auto of this guy.
Okay.
And it's on auction. It's already over $500. LaMelo Ball is playing
well.
He obviously, which is.
I was not a fan.
No, still not
all.
a fan. Still not a fan. I'd sell him as fast as I could.
Still not a fan? He's getting a lot of rebounds. Like, significantly more.
Is he going to be an average NBA player? I think so. Average. I think he'll be average. But I think when a rookie plays well early, I mean, he's young. So
he was the youngest triple-double in the history of the game.
Yep.
So I put my LaMelo Ball lot up, so that tells you how much I'm a believer.
Right, yeah. Get this out of here.
All right, so a little Pokemon news.
Yes.
So PWCC had a PSA 10 first edition Charizard.
Yep.
Sold for $350,000, brand new record for the Charizard. And then either 1 or 2 days later, Golden Auctions had an SGC Gold label Charizard, and it went for $360,000. So brand new record a day or two later.
Wow.
And so that Charizard keeps destroying sports cards.
So speaking of that,
keeping up with Jordan.
I don't know if you heard the news. January 7th. So what was that? Monday? Let me see. Today's the 12th. Oh no. So last Thursday, it was announced that CSG is going to start grading sports cards.
Yeah.
They've been grading Pokemon and they've been grading comics for years.
Right. So they're probably the PSA of comic books.
Yes, and
by far.
People are telling me based on their slabs. From what they know, because
nice
I have a couple. Well, here's what they do: they incorporate the best of what some people think the look of PSA, and then they have the subs of Beckett.
Right.
So, kind of interesting to see if they pick up market share. I mean, I'm not.
I think there'll be demand just on the standpoint of
here's what
time and
here's
capacity.
what the slab's going to look like. So
I
saw it. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting. It's got the big one number in the corner,
Doesn't
and then
it
it's got
seem
the
like
subs
the top
across.
part of the slab's a little big?
It is too big.
Yeah,
it's larger. So here's the problem with that is for collectors who are ornery like me, like having them in order and all the same size, like it's awkward.
Well, I've explained many times I hate 1989 Bowman.
Yeah, because they're too
it's
big.
a tiny bit bigger, and it disgusts
just
me.
None of my supplies fit it. It's just I'm not set up for it. Now, my thought is they probably have done the market research, and they know even if we gain 10%.
They're not brand new in the market in terms of grading stuff.
Right.
And
so,
here, you got to remember, this company is comic, coins, individual collectibles. I mean, they've been around for a very long time.
I think this is where here's where their strength lies, I believe. Their strength lies in their existing customer who already collects comics that are great, and Pokemon, who says,
and
no, I'm going to start doing sports cards. And then now they're the one-stop shop.
No, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to come up with a sub right when they do it and send it in and see how fast it comes back.
Yeah, test it out.
And just have some and maybe not send anything too big. But
well, and also see how they move on eBay. Do they move fast still? Are still people still buying them? I mean, does the market want them? I mean,
correct.
Or is it just like a collector who goes, I guess I have it,
Right.
So.
Right. And I think all we're really looking for is, we can argue the nuance between the grading companies, but all we're really arguing is, are they a legitimate, trustworthy grader?
Yep.
Can I trust the grade they put on the card?
Well, and what I care most about, like when I tell people all the time, they bring in a card that they got signed in person, they tell me the story, and I believe them.
Yeah.
But until that card is authenticated by a company that the market respects,
correct,
my hands are tied because no one's going to buy their story, right?
Right.
So what people buy is they buy PSA's opinion.
Right.
They buy, JSA's opinion on autographs, and now we'll see if CSG is, something that I'm curious. I'll tell you this much: it's a good sign.
Are you going to send
of
it
the
in?
growth? Probably
right
not. No.
Now you got to grab like 30 cards.
Dude, I don't even want to send to Beckett.
Yeah, I don't want to send it back.
I had to send an order to Beckett the other day because I got a star Jordan from '85,
fair, yeah.
and PSA doesn't grade them. And I sent it on the 2-day. It cost me I sent 4 cards because I had a couple customer cards. They were like $120 a piece to grade.
Jeez.
It's just like if I wanted them within 3-4
well,
weeks.
here,
Otherwise, I have to wait a year to get them.
With Beckett, I have my reasons, but I'm just so not interested in them as a grader. Like, I don't care about the subgrades.
Yep.
I not really. I mean, they're interesting, and I don't care about the autograph grade.
I just hope your LeBron glass gets a black label.
Yeah, hopefully I get my. Hey, where are they, Clint?
Yeah.
What are you doing over there?
Yeah, I know. I think they could be back soon. I just looked.
Wow. Yeah, when did we send those in?
May. Early May. And I got my other May order that was like 2 weeks old.
That wasn't a bulk order. That was the next level.
It was the we don't do the non-guarantee because they take like literally 2 years. Sometimes
2 years.
Well, like 14 months, 15 months.
It feels like
the last ones took 7 months for the 30 day. The 30 day. But they don't call it that anymore because that's clearly misleading.
Well, yeah, it's slightly misleading.
I think it's a 300 day.
I've started referring to the levels by their price, not by their day. It just makes no sense to call it.
It's totally misleading.
45 day.
It basically it was that, and now it's so far down the road. By the way, I want to bring up a guy who I was just let into him. We've talked about him on the podcast, Christian Wood.
Yeah.
Okay. So the unique thing about Christian Wood, 2015 rookie, he only has one card.
Yeah.
The Donruss base card. Mm-hmm. Doesn't even have an optic because they didn't have optic that year. First year's optic was 16.
You had mentioned in the last podcast you were looking for second year. Do you have any decent second year cards?
Yeah, we found some and listed them, and I think they might have sold. Yeah, he has like an Illusions and some other odd stuff. Well, we even sold some stuff that was like third, fourth year.
Well, yeah, because if he only has Illusions.
But listen to this. Listen to this. His base 2015 Donruss, the average sale on this card is $102 raw.
By the way, you will find these in dollar boxes and 50-cent boxes and common boxes.
I guarantee I have some in the shop. In my bargain boxes I give to kids. No, I give kids 800 basketball cards with an auto and a jersey for $15.
Now, I wouldn't have given up on any rookie in the first 5 years, so he would still be in my stash box if I had some.
Yep.
But there's dealers who after like 2 seasons they're done with the guy, and they just blow him out.
Think about this for a second. This is the perfect economic example of there's obviously some demand for him, but demand is not driving that price as much as a lack of supply, right?
A lack of
supply. So it's a low supply.
Well, I wanted to talk about this, but this is a good segue into it. I want to talk about something that's really not good for a hobby shop to advise their customers to do, even though I do it.
Love the preface.
The concept is very bad for us. I don't want my customers who I need to buy from to do this.
Yep.
But I advise all my customers to do this.
Because your best interest is theirs, even though it's not yours. Yeah,
so,
I get it.
Stash box. Having all of your worthless, quote unquote, worthless rookie cards.
Yep.
Who are still viable players.
Yes.
Having them in order, ready to go, so when somebody pops, You can go right in that box, pull them out, sell them.
Or grade them and then sell them.
Yeah, and so what happens is I have customers, they sell me stuff like it's a year old, and they're like, oh, here's a bunch of bulk. I can't give you very much for this because none of these cards are worth all that much.
Right.
But I'm more than happy to buy them.
Yep.
Because at the price I can pay for them, I'm not going to sell them. I'm going to put them in my stash box.
Right.
In order.
Yep.
And then, so Jeremy Grant.
Yep.
I'd never even heard of Jeremy Grant before.
Yeah.
I went in, I had a Prism rookie, I have no idea how I got it.
Right.
And I put it up, got $30.
It's awesome.
And that happens so often. And so really, if you're someone who's busting boxes, you can't be giving up on, Tyrese Maxey. What if you just kept the top 3 picks and you sold Maxey to your shop owner? Like, he's like, all right, I'll sell him now, or I'll wait a little longer maybe.
And that's why I have, what I have stash boxes of? Specifically rookie basketball, Prism Optic, and even like Donruss and hoops and all that. But like that and Bowman firsts. Right. I keep every Bowman first, chrome, not chrome, paper.
I keep all the RC logos.
RCs for Bowman and for Topps Update.
Right. And
Topps paper.
So really, if you're busting boxes, and I mean, you really should be employing this strategy. And because the cards, I know that all the new guys who are in the hobby, they're like, I bought this card 2 months ago and it tripled.
Yep.
Okay. I get Gary Vee told you to buy a Gianna, then it tripled, and he was right. And every card's going to be. No, that's not really the way it works.
And now you think you're a card dealer.
Right. Or but most of the time, I've had these rookies. They weren't worth anything. I've held on to them. Now they've popped.
Because why sell something that literally. In other words, selling these guys before they pop, what are you gaining?
There's zero upside.
There's zero upside, right? I mean, it's like, but people don't. Part of it is like, I get this. So there's a thought in cards that I've seen a lot of guys do this, where this is more for a graded order. Or whatever. Right. You get a graded order back, you sell all the 9s.
No, right.
And now, if you want to keep some 10s, you've lowered your cost basis, like we say, which is awesome. But doing that with rookie cards who haven't been established, that's a bad way because you're not really lowering your cost basis because you're getting nothing for them, right? So, I mean, like the whole point. You're effectively getting nothing, which is like, by the way, I want to say this quick. Though we just talked through the top 10 price movers and there's only one basketball, I pulled up the sales volume by player.
Okay.
All 10 of them are basketball.
Oh, wow.
So the most... So in other words, like
volume.
Even though I'm talking about Gabriel Davis as a big percentage jump, don't be confused and think a ton of him are selling. Number 1 seller still Zion, Ja Morant 2, LeBron 3, Luka 4, Kobe 5, 6 is Kobe White, 7 Trae Young, 8 R.J. Barrett, 9 Jason Tatum, and 10 is on the next page. 1 second, wait for it. Maybe.
Wait for it, people.
Actually, so not. I'm sorry. Number 10 is Ken Griffey Jr. So the first 9 are basketball.
Well, let me ask you a question.
And then Jordan is 10. I don't know why. Jordan, I mean, he's 10th. Why wouldn't he be?
No, but understand the reason why there's so established names is because we're talking about volume here.
Yes.
More people are going to want to buy Jordan than just about anybody.
Well, and let me say this. You know what else I can see here is I can see the dollar amount of all of the players' cards sold in the last 7 days.
That'd be like market cap.
Market cap. Yeah. Guess how big Jordan's market cap is?
What's that? That's not necessarily much.
Okay, so number of sales. I'll tell you. There's a total of. Let me do the math here. I don't know why.
Doing math. This makes for a great podcast. Doing math.
Okay, so there's. In the last 7 days, I'm tracking 64 different cards of Jordan sold at a total of 330 total sales.
Wow.
Guess dollar amount.
Say the numbers again.
330 total sales.
330 total sales, period?
Yep.
Oh, those got to be like rookies and stuff?
Well, there's rookies involved, but it's not right.
450,000.
794,000.
So considering I didn't really have a plan on how to calculate that.
That's an average of $2,000 a sale.
Yeah, that must be rookies and high-end inserts.
Well, and Jordan has autos that are 40,000 too, which then it sets off. But then think about this: the market cap, the next highest market cap, is actually LeBron at
That
630,
makes sense.
which
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
Yeah.
These guys are more established. So even though Zion has had the most sales, he's had 1,400 sales.
Right, but he doesn't have that super high end premium.
His average sale is $260.
Right.
Jordan's is 2,000.
Right,
So
right.
part of that, part of what we're doing is we're trying to paint this picture of the hobby, and understand that like these numbers isolated are only a piece of the puzzle. And like, yes, there's big price movements on these guys,
Right.
but like if you had 1,000 Christian Wood cards,
Probably couldn't move him.
you couldn't move them. So like it's different than having 1,000 Jordan rookies.
Correct.
Those are like night and day.
And
different.
then it might, and also when that happens, it also means how long it takes for you to sell it. So
Right.
when volume's lower, then maybe it takes me 2 weeks to sell at that price versus 24 hours to sell at that price.
Which, speaking of that, I had a long conversation today with another guy in the hobby who we talked about speed of sale is actually, and cash flow is often more important than sale price, right?
Correct.
Because if you can take a discount of 20%
And sell it immediately.
and sell it in half the time, you can sell 2 items at 20% less each,
Right.
which is still 160% versus 100.
Well, we
right?
see that a lot in the vintage apparel where I have things that are epic.
Yep.
One-on-ones, they're not really, but
They're not
if I
numbered,
called
but they
it-
are.
If I called an eBay one-on-one, I'd punch myself in the face.
Yes, thank you.
But like it's $200, but I don't know when it's gonna sell. It might be
Right.
a year, 2 years, might be tomorrow.
Right.
But then there might be certain champion jerseys where all I have to do is discount at 10% and sell them in a day.
Example, actually, when we first started, I gave you a game-used jersey of a female basketball player
Yeah.
from Stanford who was an Olympian for the Australian team. Was she Australian, I think?
Yeah.
And
something
that
like
was
She
cool.
played for
Like, I mean,
Stanford.
just the quality of the
Yeah, it was
jersey. If
great.
you're a Stanford fan, it's like,
Hey,
but how
gamer.
long did it take? Like 2 years, year and a half?
Well, I'll put it this way: it took so long. You eventually sold me your inventory, and I got credit for that stuff.
And so how much longer after so I sold everything to you probably 2 years in.
I sold it literally 6 months ago.
So you sold it like 3.5
Right.
years into it. So like,
And I got $120.
and
for
I
it,
probably paid $8
or
for it.
90 for it.
You know,
whatever.
8, 9,
Yeah.
7.99 at Savers. But like,
But see, here's the thing
yeah, it's
about
not
that
liquid.
too
Yeah.
is had I reduced the price for $50, I probably still sold it on the same day to the same
day.
person.
Because
Price
here's
wasn't
what
the
people
point.
don't realize. Exactly. Thank you. Price isn't always the point. The point is getting the right buyer. And half the time when you get the right buyer, the price is irrelevant to anyone because they want it.
Right.
So why lower your price when you finally got the guy who would have paid full price?
And that's really, really true for apparel. But
Yeah.
you can look at it with cards for like if you have a really unique card, like I have that Anthony Hardaway a cut above. That's the quote unquote error card that doesn't have the die cut of the foil.
Yep.
I'm just waiting for the Anthony Hardaway collector to buy it.
The super collector. Yep.
My price is kind of irrelevant. I had to just
It
kind
really
of
is.
pick a price that
It's
somebody could pay.
Yeah, it's arbitrary.
You
I mean,
know.
it's just yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's the real thing.
And this comes down to negotiating. I want to talk about if you're cool with it to jump in a little bit. I have a story on negotiating,
Okay.
and I want to talk about negotiating because you've opened the store,
Yeah.
you've gotten to experience negotiating.
Yeah, but I'm not much of a negotiator.
You're not much of a so let me bring this up because one of the things I enjoy about the hobby is negotiating. You don't get to walk into Target and negotiate, right?
No.
Like I wish I could go up and do what my customers do to me every day when I go other places and shop.
Right.
So it's like it's unique being on one side of it, but not getting to do it in all these other areas. You know, some people are intimidated by it, but I have this awesome story. So back up. This is connected to the largest single sale of a sports card I've ever been connected
Of a
to.
single sports
Of a
card?
single sports
Okay.
card. And I wasn't directly involved. We weren't a part of the sale. One of our regular customers who's a collector in Prior Lake, who comes into the shop a lot, buys supplies, buys wax. He's been buying vintage cards on eBay since the 90s. He collects vintage baseball specifically. And he bought an ungraded Roberto Clemente rookie from 1955.
Wow.
Sent it to PSA himself back in the late 90s.
Oh, okay.
Got a PSA 9.
Wow.
To give you an idea of how high of a grade this card is, there are 7 9s, and I believe there's 3 or 4 10s.
I'm surprised there's tens of
There's
that card.
3 10s, I believe.
Wow.
I'll actually pull it up while we're talking. So here's the fun part. So he
So
comes in.
let's understand something. That seven nines and how many tens?
I think 3 or 4.
Okay, so let's say there's 10.
Yep.
Let's understand that a pop 10 of that card is way better than a pop 1 of a ton of other cards.
Way better. And not only that, let me tell you, the fact that there's 7 10s that exist Or sorry, not
Or
710,
four,
7
three or four.
7 nines.
Yeah.
I want to say I looked it up, and it was like 10 years since the last 9 was for sale publicly.
Wow.
So literally,
they're all in question.
sometimes these cards get bought and they don't come out again
Right.
for 50 years, like at that high of a grade, right? So the whole point was that this guy decides he has an 8 and he has a 9, and he decides I'm going to sell the 9 because prices are moving, and I'll tell you the price, I'll leave the
I'm
amount till
surprised
the
it
end.
didn't sell the 8.
I know. He ended up keeping the lower grade. So he sets up, he puts out the word, and he gets a buyer.
Okay.
And this is 2 years ago at the Chicago National.
Okay.
He brings the card, and they agree upon a price. The price is $325,000 cash.
Okay.
So the guy brings a suitcase of cash.
Oh,
buy
like
this card.
literally cash, not a wire transfer?
No, actually, straight cash, homie. Just, you got to make,
He Randy Mossed that transaction?
Okay, I'm going to give you the updated pop report. There are now, and this changed, there are now 11 9s and only 1 10. So take it back. Less 10s,
Okay.
more 9s.
Okay.
11
But still
and 1.
same number of cards.
Same number of cards, okay.
Effectively.
So he shows up at this deal. They're just making the transaction.
Wait, how many like gorillas did he have by his side?
Dude, these guys
What
don't
is-
even, they're not even worried about 300K. It's so small. It's just a little brief.
I'd be slightly worried about
Yeah, I mean,
carrying that
I
much.
would be too. But anyway, so they meet up in Chicago.
By the way, you know if I'm carrying that much money because I'm a big guy. I'm going to have guys twice my size, 2 of them.
And you're going to
me.
have something like straight up like attached to your wrist. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
So he gets to the deal, and they sit down, and the guy looks over the card. He wanted to see it, all this. I mean, obviously.
Oh, I'd like to look at
I'd
it
like to
before I
look
buy
at
it. Yeah.
before I buy it for $325,000. And he, the guy, they've already agreed on the price. The guy asks my customer, my buddy, if he would take $317,000. They agreed on $325,000. So he tries to save $8,000, which I mean, $8,000 is $8,000, but
Yeah.
like this card, the fact that he didn't send it to Heritage, just keep in mind, this card is auctioned
Right.
for over $400,000 before.
Right.
And he agrees on a lower price because he doesn't have to pay fees.
He doesn't have
and
to
whatever.
pay the,
Yep.
you know, yeah.
Yep. I mean, he's going to lose something anyway. They end up not getting the deal done,
absolutely.
right? Okay, so
Absolutely.
he walks away from the deal
I
for
would've walked
over
away.
$8,000, right?
If I didn't need the money,
well, not only
I'd
that,
walk away
well,
too.
and he doesn't need the money, but he also like no one else has this card for sale, and
Right.
one guy who wants it knows he can't go find it anywhere else. It's not
Right.
like there's a plethora of these for sale.
I have a story to follow this one up. Go ahead.
Here's where it gets good. A week later, he gets a phone call from this gentleman and says, "You know what? I'll do the $325,000 now." And my buddy says,
$345.
"My buddy says it'll be $350,"
Ooh, so close.
and the guy paid the
Oh,
$350.
right.
Just a classic story. He tries to save $8,000, and it costs him $25,000.
Okay, I swear.
It's literally like to this day, I'm like, you are such a baller. This guy, I'm like, you are such a
listen to
baller.
this,
He's like,
listen
it'll
to
be
this.
$350 now.
I listened to our last podcast, and I said this 4 or 5 times. We did not plan this.
Yeah,
I did not know you were going to tell this story. I got a story for you.
I want to hear it, man.
Second year, okay, slightly less than a Roberto Clemente rookie 9. Slightly, just tiny bit less expensive.
Yeah,
My second year Beam Team Shaq,
yeah.
PSA 10.
Oh yeah, nice card.
So
93.
I did a 15% off sale on eBay. So I had it for $1,000 because
What was the pop on it?
9.
Okay.
And interestingly enough.
Yep. Nice.
So when I got this back maybe 10 weeks ago, I looked up the rookie.
Yep.
So there's none of mine for sale.
Right.
And the rookie was selling for about $6,000.
6,000.
And I remember having this discussion with you. I'm like, I don't know, where do I land on this card? There's no comp.
it's got to be worth.
And I figured 20-ish%, you know.
yeah, it's
this is
25 even.
6 to 17%. Yep. So I put it at $1,000. And I was like, I'm happy with it. I literally sold every other Shaq that I got back. I got like 23 Shaqs back.
Wow.
And
So what you're saying is graded cards are liquid?
yeah, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
So it's at $850, and I knew it at $850, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't really want to sell for $850. But I don't really exclude stuff when I do sell. They sort of see it as God's will if it sells, you know. And so I'm like, and I was in the shop, and a customer was here that we both know.
Yep.
And he wants that card.
Yeah.
Well, like literally an hour prior, I got a offer for $625 on the card.
Mm-hmm.
So I had it at $1,000.
Yep. You get
15% off, $850. Guy offers $625, and I'm like, I don't really want to sell for $850. I sure don't want to sell for $625, but I hadn't responded to his offer because I was in the shop and I had other stuff to do. And he mentioned it, and I said, "Oh yeah, I got an offer for $625 today. I'm not taking that." And I go, "Oh, I should see what the rookie card's going for now because I haven't checked. The rookie's going for over $10,000 now. The rookie beam team.
The rookie beam team shot.
10.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember when it was 5, and I thought that was high.
Right. And
Double.
so I'm like, well, not only am I not going to take the $625 because I wasn't taking it in the first place.
Are you just going to end the listing?
So no.
Oh.
So I declined the offer.
Yep.
I raised my price to $2,000.
Sure.
Same sort of ratio.
Yep.
Actually, yeah, almost the same ratio. If it's like 11.5, because it was 15,000, got a best offer. I didn't look and see what the best offer was.
Sure.
And I declined it. I bumped it to 2,000. And I'm still not really sure what I would sell it for, but it's not going to be $1,000 anymore.
Right.
That bidder sends me an offer for $850. I decline it because I didn't want to sell it for $850.
He should have bought it now. Wow, you would have had.
Wait.
Oh, this is good.
That bidder sends another offer for $1,000 because he was trying to get $120 or $225
you
off
to go back, look it up, and raise. Wow.
Right. And so what I did was I declined it because now I got no interest selling that card for $1,000. But when I declined it the third time, I said I'm not trying to be a dick. When you sent the offer, I looked up what the rookie was going for. It had almost doubled in price, and I'm no longer interested in selling it for my original price. And he never responded to me, but I'm sure he's like, man, I'm sure he's more than willing to pay the $850.
Wow.
He just wanted to go like, maybe I can save a few bucks. But I can tell you no less than 50 times has this happened on eBay where I remember this happening specifically 2 years ago in the playoffs. Sony Michel, was that his rookie year? 2018 was his rookie year, I think. Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, he was a rookie for the Patriots. They were in the playoffs. We had a bunch of his autos listed. And he scored a touchdown, literally, and I remember my phone getting a bunch of offers on his autos.
Yeah.
And I literally counter-offered them a couple dollars lower. While those people were waiting for the counteroffer, they sold at full price. And I literally thought that happens all the time, right? Like, and to the point, now I will throw this caveat out there. When you're buying cards as an investment, you make part of your profit on the purchase.
Right.
You make money on the buy side, right? If I can save $10 on the buy side,
absolutely.
That's
we're
helpful.
not advocating you should never make a best offer.
No, not at all. And I'm never discouraged by it. I even tell kids when they come into the shop, if you're under 15, you're going to take me to the cleaners on the negotiation. I'm going to let you win. Because I want to see entrepreneurs gain the confidence and the skill of the art of negotiating, which there's a lot of factors to negotiating other than the price of the item. Your cost, how long you've had it, all those things. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're laughing.
No, I just thought of a story. So this is like this summer, this kid comes in with his mom. He's like 13 maybe.
Yeah.
And he had some nice stuff. He had some hockey cards.
Oh, I know the kid.
Yeah. We talked about him. So he's a nice kid. He knows his stuff.
Yep.
And I he had a lot, and I looked through it, and I can't remember the amount, but I go, I'd be at 400, and he goes, okay, and then he looks through it and goes, would you do 425? And I said, hey, you know what? It takes a lot of guts to make counteroffer, especially when you're a kid and you're dealing with an adult, and I really respect you for doing that, for trying to negotiate with me. My answer is no. And Mom just died. It's like, because I was building them up, and I'm like, nah, 400.
Which is fine.
But I'm dead serious. Like, good job.
Well, and I'll say this much. In the art of negotiating, there are, which is interesting, Trump wrote a book called The Art of the Deal, right? Have you
read that book.
Any application for the sports card market as far as negotiating? Or just...
I read both. Now I read both in high school.
Okay.
There was The Art of the Comeback. I read as well. Okay. The one I remember from that really doesn't have any applications to cards, but it's one of my favorite things.
Yep.
He talks about his bankruptcy, and he explains that when you owe the bank $1 million, that's your personal problem.
Yep.
But if you owe the bank $1 billion, that's the bank's problem. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, what are you going to do, make him more bankrupt?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't nothing to him, and he utilized that position to actually get more credit from the bank.
Right.
Because the bank, once he went bankrupt, that $1 billion is gone.
Right.
But if they gave him more credit to fix his businesses, then they could maybe get some of that, and which they did. He ended up, coming out of it.
Well, and it's interesting because you and I get to be on the side of the counter on the negotiating where, in a lot of ways, it's like Warren Buffett buying a business.
Right.
One of his famous lines that's always stuck with me is, when it comes to buying businesses, stocks for him,
right.
He said this quote is classic. And he actually references, I don't know if you've ever seen the Ted Williams baseball chart where it has his strike zone.
Okay.
And it has his batting percentage in each area of his strike zone.
Like the
and
heat, what do they call
down,
that? Heat zone or
like
whatever?
Down the middle and up
zone.
and away is like he's hitting like 500.
Right.
The only spot where he's under like 300 is like down and away. Like, I mean, literally Ted Williams' chart's amazing. And his line on this was, he goes, the beauty of buying businesses, there's no called strikes. Meaning, I can let as many pitches come. Mm-hmm. I can see as many opportunities come.
Right.
And I'm never out because I let one go like a batter is,
absolutely.
right? A batter can't just wait for his best pitch because he can literally strike out while they hit the outside corner, right? So to use his analogy, the beauty of like in negotiating is recognizing I don't need to be afraid to miss out. Like he's missed out on a lot of businesses, Buffett has, but he's also honed in on this is my sweet spot. This is my
Gary Vaynerchuk talked about that.
And it's super important. Like, don't be afraid of missing a deal. Now, as you gain capital, as you gain knowledge, as your opportunities increase, you're actually in a greater position of power because, like, you probably had this where people are coming in today, and this came up today. We had a guy come in who wanted to sell us some retail wax that he found, right? And I told him, I said, this is what we're buying these boxes for.
Yeah.
I get 10 calls a week,
and
I buy from the 5 guys that want to take this price. If you don't want to sell it for the price, that's fine. Like, there's not even a negotiation because, like, there's going to be another guy who's going to call tomorrow who I'm going to tell him the same thing, and I'm going to get as much as I need at that price. So I don't need to pay more.
I'll tell you this. That, I referenced it earlier that I don't like to negotiate.
Right.
But
why is that? Is
but
that,
at the same,
tell me,
but understand when I'm saying that.
Yeah.
That is my negotiating strategy. So my negotiation strategy involves 2 things.
Yep.
One, I'm going to offer you the best price I can offer you, whether that's I'm buying it from you or I'm selling it to you. I'm going to try to give you my best shot right away, and we don't have to screw around.
Yep.
But the second part of that is I don't give a flying crap if I miss out on a single sale or if I miss out on a single buy.
Right.
Because to me, until I bought it, until I sold it, nothing has changed from 5 minutes prior.
Now let me ask you this.
I never worry about that.
Does that change at all? And this comes up because this has happened to me numerous times. I'll tell you a story. Well, I once had a gentleman come into our shop. He had probably 1,000 vintage baseball cards earlier than 1960. Almost all 50s and earlier.
Very nice.
And he was a younger guy. He had inherited a lot of them. And I spent an entire day looking through his cards and educating him.
Right.
And I made him my fairest, strongest offer. I offered him $15,000. At the time, it was the most I'd ever offered someone for a collection. And I really wanted the cards. And he used that for his negotiation to go shop it around.
Yeah.
And I asked him, which to this day I don't know exactly what happened. I know who he sold it to and I know how much more he sold it for.
Okay.
But I don't know how he approached it. I asked him if he would not share my offer. That he would just go and yield an offer. Obviously,
it's kind of a weird negotiation to ask him for a binding promise after you've given him
No. So I said, I'll offer you $15,000. I said, if you're going to go offer them to someone else, go let them make you an offer without knowing the offer you have.
Right.
And see, and part of it was I was like, I just want you to know I'm upfront and honest, and I walk in integrity, and I'm not trying to like get over on you. Like I have to have a margin here, but you have some value. There's a lot of value here. He ends up taking it to another shop, and he literally sold it to the guy for $16,000. And I actually asked him if he would.
Told him.
I'm sure he told him, and I wish he would have come back and let me match the offer because of the time I'd put in. Because I told him, I said, if I don't do what I just did with you, and you walk into any shop, no one pays you more than $10,000. Guarantee it. Like zero chance. Now, to be honest, I don't regret it at all. Even though I spent some time, I actually think that story, me telling other people that story, has demonstrated and actually gained more opportunities to buy deals than it's lost in the long.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is like right now at my price point for buying, which is about 500 and under.
Yep.
I probably pay more than anybody else in Twin Cities.
Right.
But that's because I'm early in the shop.
Yep.
I can use the inventory more than the other shops can.
Sure.
Over time, that price is going to start getting lower and lower because you're going to have to give me higher and higher end cars for make it worth my labor and put into it.
It's like Mr. Wonderful. He's like, if you give him 5% equity on a Shark Tank deal, it's not enough. He's like, I need more percent. He's like, I'll give more money, but I just need more.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but yeah, so it's all relative too. So to you, let's say it's a nice lot.
Yep.
You know, it's $500.
Yep.
You can maybe make $1,000 after you put a decent amount of labor into it.
Yep.
But you're gonna be like, my labor is worth more than that.
Yep.
Whereas I kind of need more inventory. I'll pay you more.
Yep.
Now, not that we're making a negotiation like that, but I'm in my head, and my initial offer is going to be a little higher.
And the other question is, at the time, in every deal we're doing, the question is, where am I at in my inventory? If I have a ton of unprocessed inventory, it actually makes my negotiating
or what if you have no basketball on the shelf. It's a basketball lot? Well, all of a sudden you're paying a little more because it's like, I don't have any basketball to sell.
Yes.
But going back to the point is, when I'm doing that, that is my negotiating strategy. I am still technically negotiating.
And here's what you're trying to do is you're trying to not negotiate.
I'm trying not to go back and forth. The back and forth is, I find it irritating. I always have.
Talk to me about that. I've noticed a lot of people, I've had people literally have we talked about this on the show? I've had people threaten to kill us, blow up our store. Okay, we talked about that. And just so you know, every single one of those was the result of negotiating.
Yeah.
Like, they took offense to, and here's the crazy part. We're in a capitalistic society, which is awesome. I have money.
Right.
You have a inventory, some item, some collectible, and you get to freely choose if you're going to sell it to me. And if I make you an offer and you don't want to sell it, why are you mad at me? Like, that doesn't make any, like, am I insulting you because you think it's worth? It might be worth more, but that's irrelevant to what I'm offering.
That goes back to what we talked about on the other podcast, where it's like when you're, I don't know if I spelled it out like this, but in the other podcast, but when you go to sell to me or you, this is the pitch I'm going to give you.
Yep.
And let's say you're not a dealer, but I made this pitch to you as just some guy who doesn't buy and sell.
Right.
I go, mister, I got a business proposal for you. What I would like to do is hire you. Okay?
Yeah.
I would like to hire you to do some labor on my behalf.
Right.
But in order for you to do that labor, you have to pay me up front for all of the revenue I'm going to get, but you also have to take all the risk if I don't get that revenue. How about we do that? And if you're not a dealer of any sort, you're gonna go, that's the worst offer I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
Like, you want me to work for you, and now that I'm hired, in order for me to work for you, I have to give you money, but then I might get money back. Nobody would take that job. That would be the worst job on the planet. But that's literally what we're doing. We're saying, at what rate is your labor, and at what rate is your return on your cash?
Yes.
And that's all relative. I mean,
you know what's hilarious? You know what's hilarious, John, is how many times I've sent someone home, meaning the negotiation. This happened the other day. Their decision was, do I sell it all in one lump sum, walk away, or do I go learn how to sell myself on eBay? And I regularly tell people, go sell them yourself. And guess what? Part of me smiles inside because I know, and you know,
I know exactly
how much work it takes to sell cards. Like, selling cards, I mean, combined between the two of us, what do we have? We have 24,000 cards listed between ComC and our own eBay listings.
Yeah, I have 50,000 on eBay.
And on an average day, we sell something like
10 to 30 for me.
Yeah, 15 to 40 or something. Think about that for a second.
That percentage is ridiculous.
That is a ridiculous percentage. So what does that say? I have to carry the entire cost of all of that?
Right.
It's not like I can...
And by the way, pay me now.
And pay me now. Yeah, right. It's like...
But you're hiring me.
I have to pay someone to list it, and then I have to pay someone else when I sell it.
Now, here's
I have to pay someone to ship it.
Here's one of the interesting things. Like, K-Bit comes into place here.
Yep.
Where sometimes I'll buy a lot, and I know that it sells well on K-Bit.
Mm-hmm.
And in the early days, I was giving the person selling the item extra money because I could sell it on KBID so easily because I knew it would do well, but it wouldn't sell very well really anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And I had to stop myself and go, Clint and I put a lot of money and labor into KBID to build up that following to get that move. Why am I giving that profit margin that I've spent money on to this person? Because I was making extra margin, but that was margin I had built up for myself. So that was something where I had to pull back on it.
We actually had this exact conversation. So the guy who came in today with the retail, some of the stuff he was selling us, we also had on the shelf for sale.
Yeah.
And for him, I think he's looking at it going, well, like, you should pay me because look what you're selling for.
Right.
Yeah, but I've earned the right to sell that.
Yeah.
And I've put in the cost and the time and the effort and the expertise.
Only that, I mean, to get your shop to where you are, you and Mike, how many years have you been in business?
This will be 5 in May.
5 Really?
5 years in May.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say 4 years and you guys average, you think you guys both average a full-time job?
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking 10,000 hours to build up this business. You went to Target.
Exactly. We actually told the guy this. We said, like, most people are happy doubling their money. They go to Target, buy a boss shirt for 25 or 20 and sell it for 40.
No, that's all relative. If it's selling for 10 times,
that's right.
Obviously.
Now, but here's what I told the guy. I said, just so you know, like, there's no, and this is a big misconception, even with what I see happening with Facebook groups and all this stuff.
Yeah.
There is no feeless way to sell a card. Like, there is no like thing. So everyone jokingly has been referring to eBay as Feebay. Feebay. So the reality is, if you have a storefront, like, we used to price our cards differently, like online and in store.
Yeah.
Meaning we'd take off a little percentage, but we shouldn't because it's still costing me money to sell it in the store.
Well, let me explain something to you. If you buy a box at Target, and you go on Facebook, and you go, I didn't pay any fees. How much time did you invest it?
Thank you.
You spent 10 minutes making the listing.
Thank you.
You spent 10 minutes screwing around with this.
Two hours in line waiting.
30 minutes to 5 hours screwing around with the 10 tire kickers.
Yeah.
Then the first 2 guys, you met them in a parking lot and they didn't show up.
Right.
The third guy tried to offer you $5 left, and you walked away.
And the other guy didn't have the money.
Are you telling me there's no fee associated with the sale?
And you can walk in here, and I pay you write you a check or pay you cash out.
I'm talking that transaction. There's a massive fee in labor that you have put trying to get this done.
And this comes back to what you said when you started your business that I think is super helpful for people is you need to view your time as valuable.
Right.
You can't view your time as worth nothing just because you have a certain amount of it.
Right.
Everyone does. And actually think about this.
Unlimited,
when you think about some of the great entrepreneurs, like I like reading and watching Shark Tank and reading about some of the guys on Shark Tank, whether it's Mark Cuban. I actually read something that was very interesting about a day in the life of Mark Cuban, like what his actual daily routine is.
I need to read more about Mark Cuban.
He literally has like a very regimented day, and a big part of his day is he actually spends a couple hours learning about something. Like, he's always learning, right?
That I know, yeah.
And so, like, all of these entrepreneurs, like, have realized that the ultimate, what's the word? It balances the one great equalizer for every business person is time.
Right.
No one has more than someone else just because they have money. Right? And so, like, the use of your time becomes incredibly valuable. And that's part of what we're talking about when we're talking about negotiating is you're making a decision of what's the most profitable use of my time. And half the time when we see a big collection that's like super time consuming leave.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually relieved. I'm like, thank God I don't have to invest all that time.
I talk about this all the time with people that I buy from regularly. I go, I have this roller coaster of emotions every time I buy a decent sized collection. It's not even that big of a collection.
You rush to get it listed.
It comes in. I'm like, oh, cool, I get to buy stuff.
Yep.
We have the negotiation. Then I buy it, and then I'm happy I got it.
Yep.
Then they leave my store, and I'm like, what have I done?
Yes.
I have plenty of other stuff to do.
Yes.
And then I'm going through listing it, and I'm just grumbling and complaining. So now I'm at my low.
Yeah.
And then it all gets listed. I'm like, oh, that was a great experience.
And then
I'm going to make some money out.
And then they start selling, and then you're actually, like you said,
they're elated, you know.
Like, sweet, I got paid. Nice. It actually became profitable.
But yeah, it's quite a roller coaster of emotions.
Well, and I mean, you know,
like if it's like 3 cards, then you don't really have that big of a
yeah, but you can even have, like, I've had recently, within 2 months, I had the worst like not in my stomach buyer's remorse moment of my entire career related to that. I think I told you about this. I didn't lose any money. I didn't lose money, but we spent $6,000 on this collection, and there was a sealed case of 89 Upper Deck boxes.
Okay.
And I did my research on the box, and somehow I overlooked that these were high series boxes and not low series.
So you get less Griffies.
The value on the high series versus low series case is half.
Yeah.
And I factored in the higher price. And, like, I was just, like, devastated. And I was like, we're not going to lose money, but I was like, oh, my gosh. Like my entire profit margin was almost connected directly to getting the higher value on that box. And so, like, it still happens to me today. And I literally went to Mike, and I was like, apologize. I'm like, and literally, and I grinded for, like, a week. Everything else I got to get profitable. And then I was like, okay, we're just going to make a little bit less on the case now. But the entire case was profit, but half of that I lost, which sucked. You know,
the thing, because I really had to learn how to buy. Yeah. Because I've never been a buyer of cards. I've been a buyer of apparel, but not of cards.
And a lot of that was at a thrift store where they set the price, right? So there's no like.
So then it's just a yes, no.
A yes, no.
It's a binary decision.
Yep.
But like I was overpaying. Now, like I just said, I probably pay more than most people.
Sure.
Anyways, right? But I was overpaying on top of that. And what was happening is I wasn't losing any money, but I would get done processing it and going, yeah, I'm not going to make nothing for my labor here. Not nothing, but like very little for my labor. And I could have done other stuff where I would have made more money. So now I'm at the point now where if I make that offer, so like let's say I go $100, and there's a counter of like, how about 125? I was saying yes to 125. Now I'm going, nah, 100, because I'm usually right about my initial instinct, and then that bump up was killing my labor, the return on my labor.
Yes.
And so that was kind of interesting. Oh, I want to talk about the greatest football game ever played coming up this weekend.
I'm
Buccaneers, Saints,
Educate
Brady, Breeze, most passing yards, most touchdowns by two quarterbacks ever, maybe?
Yep. And I actually remember going back some years ago and rewatching the time that Breeze and Brady played in college. So Breeze with Purdue.
They played each other?
They played each other.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So Brady was a senior, Breeze was a junior, and they played. Brady won, I think, by a touchdown.
So you're saying that they played in college, and then this might be the last game he goes up against Brady because Breeze might retire.
They literally put that was in 2000. Wow. So this is 20 years ago they played in college.
That's so cool. I didn't even think about that.
That's neat. Yeah, because they played in college. So literally, that's wild, right? But I just need to make a confession. I love Tom Brady. Do you know how much Do you know how much I love?
I think
Tom
that's
Brady?
come up a couple times.
I have so much bromance in my heart. I would kiss him right on the lips, John, just like his kids. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's disgusting.
No, but you saw the photo.
So Steve came up with this before he left. What up, Steve?
What up, Steve?
So Steve made a ridiculous statement, and I thought you would be on my side because of your man crush about Tom Brady.
Thank you.
So we're segueing.
You're leveraging my Tom Brady love, yes.
He had argued, so we were looking up different draft classes and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. He had argued that Diggs will end up having a better career over Mike Evans. Evans was drafted the year before, but they're the same age. They're only like 5 months apart.
14 to 15, yep.
Evans has 40 more catches, but 2,100 more yards, and 61 touchdowns versus 38 touchdowns.
Who has 61?
Evans. Evans got him smoked on everything. On yards and touchdowns, got him smoked.
And Evans has had worse quarterbacks until this year.
Well, Steve will argue that the Viking quarterbacks have been worse. I disagree. Because he basically had Winston his whole career.
Yeah, I would take Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum, and Sam Bradford over Winston. Yeah. I think. I mean, the combination of those. And Josh Allen.
He's arguing that he might not be able to take him in touchdowns, but he probably will. He should get him in catches. Do you think Diggs will end up with a better career over Mike Evans?
Not even close.
Thank you very much.
Not even close.
Take that, Steve.
And now I will say this much: Diggs has overachieved what anyone thought for a fifth round pick out of Maryland. He's phenomenal. I mean, he led the league in receiving yards this year, I believe. Diggs.
Yeah, and then
And he's got a legitimate quarterback who can run, which
Yes.
I think is a benefit for him in his scramble drill. And just like Diggs does well when plays break down. And,
Right.
I mean, he's got phenomenal hands. There's a lot of good things to say about Stephon Diggs. Mike Evans is a different animal.
Yeah, I'm not downgrading Stephon Diggs.
No. Mike Evans is you know what's weird? I had this thought watching the game Sunday about Evans. He doesn't look athletic, like physically.
Yeah,
he doesn't
looks
look
like a
strong,
monster,
right? He just
yeah.
looks long.
Yeah.
But he is.
He's kind of a Chris Carter mold because he's not that fast.
I'll say this much: if someone is fast enough to run with Mike Evans, he has such a height advantage that he's unguardable. Like Durant is unguardable in a way. And if someone's big enough, he's running by him. So it's how do you cover this guy?
Well, the other thing too is when he got drafted. So I have a man crush on Mike Evans
because you found his
I always have. I've drafted him every year in fantasy.
Yep.
A big fan, right? But
now he's got the GOAT thrown to him, man.
This all came from draft night when I was watching video.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing him double covered. These wobbly, just horrible dead duck throw, and him just snatching it out of the sky. I'm like, I love this dude.
Yep.
But it took me a couple years to realize it was Johnny Manziel throwing those horrible passes to him.
Yeah.
And so I would argue that the reason why Manziel got drafted so high is because he had Mike Evans.
Because of Mike Evans.
It took me a couple years to figure out.
Texas
I was
A&M,
like, Manziel was the one throwing that because I don't follow college football.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
speaking of college football, do you have any thoughts on the dynasty that is Alabama? I mean, it's just it's getting frankly ridiculous.
I don't follow college sports unless the Gophers are doing well. Which in hockey they're doing well, so I'll start paying attention.
Well, let me ask you a question. What's the over/under in your opinion of how many NFL teams that Alabama could beat this year?
None. I've already had this discussion.
No, they
Zero.
could. Oh, absolutely.
Zero.
Yes, they could.
They could beat.
Close. They could beat the Jets. They could beat the Jags, and they could beat the Dolphins.
You're crazy, Clint.
You're wrong.
You're
crazy. They're literally gonna have 7 first-rounders.
Oh, guess what? Every football team has basically the entire team that got drafted in the NFL. And they're bigger and they're stronger because you take 22-year-olds versus 25, 29.
Derrick Henry, when he came out of Alabama, was like the most physically ready running back in the entire NFL.
Okay, what's your point?
So is the guy coming out this year.
He wasn't the best running back in the NFL.
It took him like a year.
Okay, so he's going up against.
So my point is right
bigger,
now,
stronger,
yeah, but I'm saying right now there's 3 or 4 teams that are that bad.
I disagree. I've had this discussion.
You're wrong.
I'm not.
I would put money on it.
Every single NFL team has virtually 100% draft picks.
The Jets do not have a bunch of good first-round draft picks. They have some of the worst first-round draft picks, i.e. Sam Darnold. Yes, I will take the quarterback from Alabama right now above Sam Darnold. Yes.
Okay, I hope there's enough people listening so we get comments on that.
I want your comment on this. Who do you vote for? Do you vote with John or do you vote for Clint?
No, dude, this is a reoccurring conversation.
Alabama made Clemson. Sorry, Alabama made
another team that doesn't have 100% draft picks on
Alabama made Ohio State, and Ohio State made Clemson look bad. Like, they are at another level. They are the equivalent of they're a lower level NFL team. Everybody on Alabama will probably pray.
If you made an all-star team out of the top 5 ranked team, they could beat the Jets.
No, I think Alabama alone could. Because they actually play well as a team.
We got to get comments on this. This will be a fun fight if we got enough people listening.
Yeah.
This is where I wish we had 1,000 subscribers and we were live and we had chat going. Because it would be going nuts right now.
I would love it.
Because I bet you it's split right down the middle.
Yeah.
But that's the way I've always looked at it. It's like every single player is an NFL player on an NFL team. Not every player on Alabama is an NFL player.
No, but here's the comparison I'm making. No. Here's why let me adjust your thought here. Not every player on Alabama gets on the field, and not every player on the Jets gets on the field. So you're actually taking the best 11 on both sides and competing. Does that make sense?
Take the offensive line of Alabama.
Yep.
Unless all 5 guys on that line are draft picks, which maybe is possible,
they had the number 1 overall lineman in the country.
But you take the worst guy on the Jets against the worst offensive lineman at Alabama, he's gonna blow that dude up.
Not necessarily. You'd be surprised.
That dude up.
You know what? He probably was at Alabama, and he probably sat on the bench a few years ago.
Yeah, he was a good Alabama player versus this not good draft pick.
Alabama Like, look at how many
draft picks
players
do they have how many draft on a single given team in Alabama? How many would you think are eventually draft picks? 30?
their current roster.
Yeah, so if you just take not for the next draft, but like the next 5 drafts, 4 drafts.
So of their
whatever.
110 guys, I mean, I would guess.
Well, no, because we can only play. Let's say the top 50, because that would be an NFL
Top 50,
team.
20 of them, 20 or 25 will be drafted. Here's my point: their best elite players are the only guys on the field. Those guys are better than the best Jets players. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Now, no, I'm not saying every single position.
No, I get what you're saying. I understand your argument. I just don't buy it.
Okay.
It's just there's just no way.
Okay.
Anyway. That's the same thing with WNBA, and they're like, the best team could beat the worst NBA team. It's like, no, like get out of here.
No, that's.
No, but like people do those things, those mental gymnastics all the time. It's like, no.
But here's the reality: is I could tell you. Here's what you could do: is actually you could see from this Alabama draft a few years from now. You could
put together a team.
Put together
the last 4. Oh, hey, we should do that. Put that together. And
if I took the best Alabama players in the
drafts.
NFL right now, I would probably have the best team in the NFL.
Now, here's the thing, though. Here's another problem you're running into. There's probably 3 quarterbacks.
Yep.
You can't play 3 quarterbacks at one time.
You got to pick the best one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So some of those draft picks are like, well, there's 18 linebackers.
Honestly, with Alabama, I'd probably take Jalen Hurts right now, even though he finished at Oklahoma.
Yeah,
he was there for,
right.
Or Tua. I mean, I don't know. That's tough, man. They got a lot of good players. Anyway,
all right. So I do got a story. So I had a 92-93 Upper Deck High Series box on the shelf. And a customer of mine, Zach, he was here earlier tonight. What up, Zach? He came back and he bought it, and he's like gonna bust it. I kept telling him, don't bust it, keep it sealed.
Which box?
92-93 Upper Deck Basketball High Series.
Yep.
So the Shaq draft pick card, not the exchange card.
Yep.
And now, can you get the exchange card out of High Series still, or not?
I never opened that product.
I don't know the answer to that question. So, and I kept telling him, don't bust it, put it in your closet. It's just a nice investment box. And so he's like, I'm busting it. Which I respect because I'm a buster. And he comes back and goes, you're not going to believe this box. He pulls 3 draft pick Christian Laettners, 9 Christian Laettners overall. So for those who don't know, there's like a top prospect card, and then there's like a game face card.
Yep.
9 Christian Laettners, 0 Shaqs. So
like
if he would have opened that in 92, that wouldn't have been a bad box. 9 of the third pick.
Let me ask you this: is there any coincidence that Christian Laettner's from Minnesota, played for Minnesota?
Well, we had talked about that. We used to call those
regional boxes.
Regional boxes? No, that's not a real thing.
Do you know that they actually have the ability to track which cards are allocated to which boxes and which boxes?
Where'd you hear that? I've never heard that.
Panini has the software.
Panini does.
Yeah, no, it's
did Upper Deck.
Oh, did I? No, I'm not. Yeah, sorry, I'm not referring to that
Upper Deck
box.
one year did have regional boxes where certain boxes went out to certain regions.
Yep.
But like the record keeping on that has got to be crazy.
Yeah. I will say this much:
So what do you know about Panini? Like, why are they even keeping track of that?
Because their computer system has to collate the boxes, and so they have to set it. It's actually a built.
Go with the serial number.
And so if you noticed in this year's basketball Prism 19 with John Zion, those 2 guys were like back to back. Their card numbers
they were in the same box,
and they were in the same. They were in the same pack box sometimes, literally in the same pack sometimes, and that's related to how the sheets are cut,
right?
How the cards get.
They didn't purposely do that; it just happened to be how it fell.
Well, somebody has to. I mean, there's some way to randomize it somewhat too, but like in other words, someone has to create the system and software that does the act of organizing the cards prior to going into a pack.
And now this is a mathematical theory, which I don't understand.
Yeah, no, it's not leveraged towards a shop.
I don't understand math well enough, but I understand the theory.
Yep.
Because there's human involvement,
yep.
No matter what you do, as long as the human creates the randomness, there's always a pattern.
Yes.
A human can never be completely random.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's like theories that there's no such thing as randomness.
Like, for example, I don't know. I mean, the guys who really know Fleer basketball, like in 1990, I've had a couple guys rip boxes of 90 Fleer to grade the Jordan, and they told me every time X players on the front.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan,
That's a real thing.
Yeah, that's a real thing. And that's related to, like you're saying, the pattern.
1990 Donruss in the cello pack, if there was the same top and bottom, there was a David Justice in the cello pack. I can't remember who the two guys were because David Justice isn't really relevant anymore.
Right.
But I remember somebody told me I found one like that. David Justice was in there. So what do you got, Clint?
We had talked earlier, actually, the conversation we had with your customer who just graded the Jordan rookie.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that black refractor.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that, and I wanted to talk about I think for people who don't use it, I don't know if we've even talked about this on the podcast, but so PSA, one of the reasons that PSA I think is popular as they are.
Let's give a little background.
Okay,
a customer graded a 2002-03 Topps Chrome Black Refractor Jordan, numbered to 99. We got it back. It looks really nice. Came back in 8. There was some other issues. And he really thinks it should be a 9. We're thinking, should we send it to Beckett? Maybe it's an 8.5.
Yep.
Maybe it's a 9.
It's not going to be an 8 with Beckett.
And then he was asking what he should do.
Yep.
And then go.
Yeah, so one of the things I was advising him is I always ask people questions. I try to ask questions of like, what's your long-term goal with this card? If the goal is to sell it, here's one of the things that I've found. One of the reasons we send a lot of common low-end Jordans to PSA is not just because PSA 10s sell better, which they do, than Beckett 9.5s, even though Beckett, a 9.5 is their gem mint.
Yeah, we were talking
about
this
PSA 10 is their gem mint. So that confuses people. The same standard, a 9.5 is equivalent to a 10 for PSA and Beckett. A Beckett 10 is a pristine. PSA doesn't have that qualification.
And then they have another level on top of it.
And then they have another level. And then they have an even more perfect pristine. So one of the reasons we send a lot to PSA is there's a massive demand for PSA graded 10 Jordans, because if you have the registry for Jordan, you have the master registry. So the registry, let's talk about this. Explain this, because if you guys don't know what I'm talking about. So the registry is you actually sign up on PSA's website for free. You create an account. Right. You can literally track all your collections of PSA graded cards. I'm in the middle of collecting 2 sets, 86 Fleer basketball PSA 8 set, and a master collection of Paul Molitor. So I need so now not every single Paul Molitor card is on the registry.
Yeah, they take like the key cards.
But all the cards that are on the registry, I need them graded.
Right.
Because the only way you're ever going to get the top registry is to have every card.
And you're literally, you don't win anything for being the top registry. It's bragging rights.
No, I know. It's collecting. It's the fun of the collection. Yeah. Like, so for Molitor.
It's like, why do you play pinball to get a higher score?
So listen to this. Molitor's master set is 669 cards.
Wow. That's a lot of cards.
So think about this. There's a whole ton of cards. Now, the mainstream cards that are on there are the ones that, as a dealer, I try to grade. Because, in other words, if there's a Jordan and I know it's on the registry, which every Fleer card's on the registry,
correct,
but not every random insert's on the registry.
But it might be like 93, 94 Fleer.
Yeah, that card is needed by literally 10,000 people.
Correct.
In 10.
And there's not 10. Even though that's a very common card, there's not 10,000.
There's not 10,000. Yeah. So what that creates is value.
Right.
It creates value. And value and demand and a lack of supply equal higher prices.
Right.
So one of the reasons I argue that PSA outsells Beckett is because the registry is very popular. And this all applies to especially investors. There's a customer of ours in Prior Lake who has the #1 rated 1956 Topps baseball set on PSA's registry. So it ranks them. So each card is ranked based on the grade and the weight. So in other words, a Mickey Mantle to the registry of 1956 Topps is actually worth more than a common.
Right.
So having a high grade one actually moves you higher up in the rank.
Do they go by dollar value then?
They go by dollar value, and then short print rookies are worth more. Like a rookie who's a common is worth more than a non-common.
But a short print common would still be worth more.
Would still be worth more, yeah. And so they rank them. And so the heavier weighted cards being in high grade increase your value. You're ranking higher, right? So one of the things that I know about keeping that PSA 8 in a PSA case, one of the values is the person who's going to collect it is not just always going to be a Jordan collector specifically, but an actual PSA registry guy. So like
you want to add it to your registry.
You'll watch all these guys on YouTube, like Elite Co. The guy who runs the KC Futures he runs Elite Co. 3, I think. He runs a YouTube site where he actually shows cards before they go to PSA and after.
Oh, cool.
I actually know the players he does registries for. It's like Griffey, Mike Vick, Drew Brees, LeBron. He does all the registries, right? So he'll always say, picked up another one for the registry, right? And so that should cue people in that like having a little bit of insight into which cards are actually on LeBron's master registry is super helpful, because sometimes there's 5 guys looking for a 10 and there's none on eBay.
Well,
so like you get that 10.
That kind of relates to Pokemon a little bit, because Pokemon always has that third concept where there's gameplay involved.
Yes.
And a card is worth more because it's valuable in the gameplay.
Utilitarian.
You're almost saying that the gameplay in sports cards is getting on the registry.
Yes.
That's the X factor of what makes something valuable.
And so if I'm thinking about going to PSA or Beckett, one of the reasons I lean towards PSA is that, and you probably noticed this, PSA cards sell quicker.
Correct.
One of the reasons is PSA gives the collector an opportunity to catalog their entire collection on their phone in their app for free. So like, for example, your Shaqs. Somebody might be doing the master
Oh, by the way,
Shaqs.
the rookie Shaq registry is only 8 cards. I had when I got my PSA order, I had half the PSA 10 for the registry.
That's awesome.
And that's the point why I don't have any.
This is why I actually have started some, because I've one of the best. And actually, this is great. I love this. This is how I learned about the registry at first. I would see a guy go into the Hall of Fame in baseball, and be like, "Wow, his price has shot up." And I didn't initially connect the dots as to why. It's not simply because he's now in the Hall of Fame.
People are starting to register.
It's because the most I think I read this, and I need to go back and check it, but the most put together registry on all of PSA's website is baseball Hall of Fame rookies.
Interesting.
And so every year they pick one rookie card for each player.
Right.
That is the rookie in the registry.
So you're saying there's a registry. Oh, I didn't catch that. You're saying there's a registry of rookie cards of Hall of Famers, one of each player.
Exactly. So,
I have no idea that existed.
So the later ones, so Frank Thomas, for example, when he went in.
Leaf.
I think it was the Tops, actually.
No,
I have to look. Yes.
Why?
Let me pull it up.
That's a crime.
And here's why, though, because Topps is the flagship for all these other rookies.
Who cares? That's a crime. The Leaf is not the card.
So
what card are we talking? 90 Topps?
Yeah, the no name, but the name one. The name one. The one with him bending down.
I officially say yuck.
Well,
PSA.
I mean,
it's so obvious the Leaf is the card. Okay, fair enough. But whatever.
So the cool thing about that is, so all of a sudden you see a guy coming who's just got inducted in the Hall of Fame. You got to go find out which card is going to be in the Hall of Fame set registry, and then, because that's the one that's going to have the demand.
That gives more value to Topps in general too.
Absolutely, yes.
Especially when you're looking forward, like Miguel Cabrera. You're going to go, well.
Wow. Okay, so listen to some of these sets that they have. Believe it or not, they have a set. First ballot Hall of Fame baseball post-war rookies. Think about that. There's 51 of them. Think about that. Like just post.
That's like 4 qualifiers.
So here's one of them. This is the one. Hall of Fame baseball player rookies. There's 148 of them.
Wow.
And there's only one card of each guy on the registry. Okay, so I'll tell you. Here's
almost all Topps. What are some that aren't Topps? That aren't like pre-war stuff and things like that.
Hold on 1 second. This is
like what's.
I'm sorry. Nope. This is basketball. Let me tell you the baseball one. That's too low for baseball.
Yeah, like what's not a non-Topps card? That's on the registry. Yeah, that's our key rookie card.
Let me tell you.
Well, here now we started to get while you're looking that up. We started getting into this a little bit, and you were making that argument, which I think I had said. I had made a claim, and then you're like, no, mine's more important. And
so they actually
maybe hold on, maybe it is, right?
Yep.
But one of the other reasons why PSA outsells from a 10 to 9.5 is that 10 is a round number.
Right.
And a 10 just simply looks nicer to a 9.5. And there's something about card collectors where we are obsessive about.
Oh, wow.
We're a little weird when it comes to right angles. Yep. And perfect numbers, and we're like that. We're nerds, right?
Yep.
And so a 10 just looks nicer than a 9.5.
Right.
So that's 2 aspects that it's created.
I actually think PSA doing a 9.5 would be harmful to them.
I agree.
I actually like the fact they don't. It's just not. It's 8.5, 9, 10.
What's killing them, though, is that perfect.
Yes.
That black label or that gold label.
Now, let me tell you, you're right. The 90 Leaf Frank is the one.
Yeah.
So listen to this.
Well, it has to be.
It's literally tops for every player from 1952 all the way until 1983 with Wade Boggs. Then it shifts to Fleer update for Puckett.
Boggs is Boggs is 83 tops.
Yeah.
Right?
So he's the last one that everybody previous is tops.
And then Puckett would be the Fleer update. Yeah, okay.
87 Donruss, Greg Maddux. 87 Fleer Larkin.
Well, yeah, because it would have to be a what Maddux for a tops.
Tops traded. He has a tops traded.
87 tops traded. Yeah, that's a junk card.
Yep. So now then it goes to, like, for example, and this is valuable information. 88 score Tom Glavine is the card on there.
Oh, yeah.
You know what that tells me? If you get that card clean, it's actually worth grading because there's a huge need for it. Huge demand, right? Because I've actually thought about putting the set together. I only have the Molitor and like two other ones.
One of the things you can do if you on a budget is start backwards.
Yes.
Start with the newest guys and go backwards. Now, obviously, Pujols and even Miggy might be tough when he gets in. Because he's got that weird card.
Here's how I figured this out the other year. The 1990 Leaf Larry Walker card skyrocketed. And it was because that's the one that they put on here.
Sucks.
The tops one sucks.
Yeah.
And I graded a bunch of these, and they sold right away.
Yeah.
And I realized
I've sold 20 of them.
I realized this is a thing. Like, there's a lot. I don't know. I can look it up actually and find out how many people are doing this specific.
Dude,
registry.
I've sold 20 Larry Walker Leaf rookies.
Yeah.
They're all gone. I don't have any.
And I bet a lot of them got sent to grade.
Yeah.
So then you got the Bowman Jim Tomei 91. 91 Bowman Chipper Jones. They didn't put the tops on. They put Bowman.
Oh, that one's a weird one.
Yep.
Oh,
Mike,
see, now that doesn't make any sense. It should be the tops Chipper.
Yeah.
All day.
Should be.
Yeah.
Well, now it's Ultra Update Mike Mussina. Ivan Rodriguez Ultra.
Jeff Bagwell Ultra.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Pedro Martinez, the final edition Upper Deck.
Oh, that's a weird one.
Trevor Hoffman Bowman. Mariano Rivera Bowman.
Yeah.
Fleer Update Piazza. Makes sense. 92.
Update.
You know the update?
That's gray border?
No, it's like that
green
ugly green border.
Oh, the green border.
And it's the update. Then you have the.
I suppose.
Now they put Jeter SP on here. Obviously he got inducted, but not. They haven't done their speeches.
No, but that should be.
That should be the card. The Bowman's Best, Vlad Guerrero.
Okay. Yeah,
and
that's the right
and
card.
The Bowman Chrome Roy Halladay. He's the last one. So.
Okay.
So. Knowing which card each player...
That 88 score Glavin's very interesting because that's a cheap card.
And it's like the only scorecard almost on here other than the score traded Roberto Clemente or Roberto Alomar.
Kind of bland. It's 88 tops.
And obviously Upper Deck Griffey is the one. Yeah. But then also Randy Johnson is his Upper Deck.
Yeah. That would make sense.
They didn't do the Fleer one, with the background.
Yeah, or the tops. That wasn't a spectacular card.
So... Isn't that cool that, like, the registry doesn't directly dictate value, but it dictates demand, which then affects value.
Demand of one card over another card. Same player.
Exactly. Thank you. And now sometimes the demand was already there for that card, but,
So we got one fan of our podcast.
I actually had a guy.
Atomic Zombie Android.
Oh, come on.
Thank you for leaving comments. I really appreciate that. He always thanks us for bringing up his questions and stuff. This is the world's easiest question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
What are you having trouble getting allocation for? The answer is everything. Like, there's literally nothing we can order from the distributors that's not out of stock after it gets released. And if it does come back in stock, we're paying significantly higher prices on the restock, and that's allocated as well, even at the higher price. So I just bought a Prism Draft hobby box football. I paid $11.50 for it.
You mean pro, not
pro? Yeah,
not draft.
Not draft.
Prism.
So I'm paying $11.50 for that hobby box. That's a restock, and I don't know for a fact that I'm getting it.
Wow.
Because they're going to allocate that as well. Now, usually if I order one box, they'll get it to me. Mm-hmm. I think my rep is trying to at least get me the restock, like one box, because I'm only ordering one too. Right. But yeah, so the answer to that question is literally everything. Is there anything you can buy at just what you would normally order for it in a normal year?
Hockey.
Hockey. Okay, fair enough.
Hockey, we actually turned down one allocated opportunity of a product, I think Synergy, that just came out. That last year we just didn't move it as quick.
Right.
We tried to stick with more Upper Deck SP Authentic, the kind of staple products.
My favorite set in hockey from just a visual standpoint is the lure set. I really like that set.
Yeah, those are very cool.
And
it's a new color scheme.
Right, and then the black diamond's coming out.
Yeah, it's gonna be
I'm very curious about that.
The cup hockey is always in demand. I'll say this.
So yeah, fair. I didn't think about hockey. So not everything hockey you can
now.
Get.
And here's part.
I can even order a little bit of hockey too.
Here's part of the reason why Upper Deck won't sell to breakers who don't have brick and mortar. So like, there's
you have to have brick and mortar.
Yeah, you have to brick and mortar. So, let me say this: our allocations, believe it or not, on certain products have actually gone down over the years. I don't know how, but.
Well, I know how. I mean, you're selling more, but there's just more demand. There's more people entering. I had a customer come in today. He's like, yeah, I just put in my application for.
I mean, literally though, I've been buying from Southern longer than like a dozen breakers that are getting more than us.
Well, here's the thing.
Because they buy I know some guys who I had one of them at our shop today. There's 4 guys who run. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. And I'm trying to keep myself out of it because I'm actually a Johnny-come-lately in this world. So I'm trying to put myself out of it. But I do think the distributors are doing an absolute disservice to the hobby by doing that.
Yeah.
Because of 2 reasons. One, these breakers who are operating out of their house can get out of the business at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
And so they're really setting themselves up for
and they're
failure
not
in the future.
And they're not offering the community the LCS
But the other reason why the way they do it,
which is an acronym for
for
local card shop, for those who are listening. That's another sports, just
acronym
that we.
But
use.
the other reason why it's bad for the hobby in general is what you're doing is you're reducing the enjoyment of a hobby.
Yep.
By the customers, and so
totally
the customers
agree.
that are being driven out. I've never participated in an online break. I participated in a break in your shop a handful of times, which is fun. Yep. I don't understand breaks, and I probably will never enter in an online break. I don't find it interesting looking at a computer screen watching a break.
Well, I'll say this much: here's where breaks do serve a purpose.
I'm not saying they don't.
No,
but I'm saying if that's where everything goes.
Yeah.
Then you're actually eliminating a bunch of options for the customers in the market.
Right.
And you have shops like Papa Hawks in Golden Valley who's been in business, 8 years, 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like you're making it so the customers who want to go there where they can't buy it there, that's a net negative for the hobby as a whole.
Right. Yeah, now I'll say this. There's multiple positives about breaking. I'm not like a guy who's like down on breaking at all.
I think breaking has brought a lot of people back in the hobby.
Yep.
I think a lot of people have fun with it. That's not my argument at all.
Okay, yeah.
But my argument is they really should be setting minimums for shops.
Sure.
Right? So they look at and again, I'm trying to take myself out of it, right?
Yeah.
But for you, they should be like, look, they have a certain area that they serve.
Yep.
We got to get them at least this much. And once they do that minimum, then they should go, okay, now let's look at previous selling capacity.
And to your point, because the reality is this, Mike and I have, I'm not going to say we're going to be solely responsible. I think a lot of these guys would say, we've had a major part to play in like 10 different breakers starting.
Yeah.
Either we sold them their first products, we got them.
Helped them out.
We did everything we could. Yeah, we send them customers, all that stuff. The reality with breaking that I like the point that you made is if the hobby has a downturn, those are the first guys to leave. Yeah. We're still going to be there.
Right, and then much institutional cost.
And then all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, yeah, now we have more for you. It's by
the way, guess what's going to happen? Yeah. What are we going to say when they say, hey, do you want 10 more cases?
No.
We're going to say no.
No.
And the reason why we can say no is you're going to have those 10 cases. I'll reorder when I need it.
Yep.
And so it's really kind of a backwards. Really, my opinion is for the health of the hobby, they should be going, look, we got to get Papa Hawk the case.
Yes.
Of something. Because he's been in business a long time, established in the community. Clutchers have been going
He's got a huge customer base.
He's been ordering 2 cases of every product for 8 years. We got to give them at least a case. We can't give them a box. That's crazy.
Yep.
And so that's my opinion on that.
And this would be curious to know. I mean, this is the benefit of us getting 1,000 subscribers. So if you're listening and you haven't subscribed, we'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I would love to go live and actually do an interview with JT or one of our reps at all of different distributors and ask them some of these questions of like, and ask them. It's kind of like Google. You have the secret acronym to why some
algorithm.
Yeah, thank you. We like to mix words around here. We have this Google algorithm which determines somehow arbitrarily why one website pops to the top and others don't. So what is it that determines who gets allocation? Is it length of
Oh, it's not.
Purchase?
We know that.
Well, some of it is because, us having been there longer.
I've been told that it's the last 6 months at one distributor.
But it's also, I think, so I think there's 2 factors there. I think it's your last 6 months. But if your last 6 months you've been asking for everything you've been asking for and you've been doing that for 5 years, that's better than a guy who just has been doing it for 6 months.
I don't know if that's true based on what was explained to me.
No, yeah, I think it is.
Because here's the thing, what they're looking at is they want to sell these restocks. That's where they're making more money, right?
Right.
And so if you got a breaker coming in with a massive bankroll, and they're like, yeah, I'll buy 20 cases of Prism football at $11.50 a box. I'll make $50 a box on that.
Yep.
But I'll use that to finance higher allocation.
Yep.
They're like, oh, okay, cool. But in terms of the hobby in general, what you're doing is saying, well, the only place you can buy cards is through these breakers and not through any other channels because all the other channels, they're getting less. They can't.
Right.
And then what happens is they don't buy as much restock because now they got the allocation.
Like I know specifically one breaker, they said they've maxed out they literally buy every single restock no matter the price, and they've just spent a ton of money gaining some allocation. Like you said.
Which is a strategy. Which is a strategy.
Yeah, which is a strategy.
I would be doing the same thing if I had a bankroll.
Yeah. The problem with that is you can overextend yourself really quickly.
Oh, absolutely. I want to still be here in 20 years. I got no interest in the short-term play if it risks leaving the market entirely at any point in time.
Right.
So even now when I order for like 3 months from now, I'm still only putting in 2 cases.
Yeah.
Because if that shifts, first of all, I'm only going to get a couple boxes anyways, maybe. Right. So it doesn't make any sense for me to order 100 cases because I'm not going to get 100 cases if it's allocated. But if the market shifts and I can get as much as I want, now I'm on the hook for 100 cases.
Right.
There's no value in me making that order.
Right.
And so
now I'll say this much: if you got 100 cases, you could move them so easily on whether it's deal.
No, I'm talking about a turn in the market where all of a sudden the margins are 15%.
Right.
Then I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to.
You could still. Oh yeah, you could. You could move them at cost because they're still.
No, you could. Yeah. But you were talking about a significant amount of labor for almost no return.
Now here's the other thing about breaking that is good for us is if you hold on to wax, the more breakers are breaking, the more valuable the unbroken becomes. Well, we've talked about the investment in
not only wax. That, but
breakers do a good job at removing supply.
Right, but not only that is the more people who are participating in breaks are coming into the shop trying to sell their singles to us.
And the more people that are participating in breaks are interested in collecting, which means buying other singles, selling singles. In other words, like one of the best things that happens for our customer is they hit a big card in a break and sell it and generate a bunch of capital, which allows them to continue.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, that's...
So by no means, I think, are either one of us saying breakers.
No, and Mike will always say this, too. There's been people who've complained about breakers and stuff, and here's what he said is, if no one broke the box, how would you get the singles?
Absolutely.
So somebody has to
open it. Somebody has to open it. Yeah.
Whether, who takes the risk, that's,
So, okay, I got a question. Comes back. This was another Steve addition to the podcast.
Up, Steve?
What up, Steve? He had made a ridiculous claim.
I love those.
He made a ridiculous claim that Barry Bonds gets in the Hall of Fame before A-Rod. My counter to that is Barry Bonds gets into the Hall on the same ballot as A-Rod or after, but not before. What are your thoughts?
I think Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player ever to play.
Okay.
So I think to keep him out of the Hall of Fame is there's just no reason to. And there's no reason when like the Pete Rose thing I kind of understand because they're trying to make a precedent.
Yeah,
the Barry Bonds thing like is a little bit different, I think, because we already have players in the Hall of Fame that I'm pretty sure were connected to steroids. So like, are they just trying to make him an example? I don't.
But here we're talking about reality though. We're not talking about what should be. We're talking about what will happen.
What will happen?
My argument is that Barry
they're
Bonds
both as
and
tainted.
A-Rod will get in on the same ballot on the year at which enough writers go, look, this has been long enough.
Yep.
We're done. There's not going to be people voting for Barry and not voting for A-Rod.
Do you know what Barry got for votes last year? I'd be curious to know. I bet he's really close. I think he's probably creeping up every year. I bet they need 75%, right?
Yeah, 75%.
I think I bet he's in the 60s. Man. Well, let's just talk about both those guys for a second. A-Rod was the absolute
60.7.
60 only? Okay, so he just broke 60. So Barry, I would hope in the next 5 years would get enough if he gains 3-4% a year, I guess. I mean, 2.5%.
So now here's where maybe I'm going to be proven wrong here. Where's A-Rod? Is he eligible for the ballot? Not yet. Okay, so we don't know yet.
So if A-Rod gets in on his first ballot.
Is it this ballot? What he'll be on? When did he retire?
Was it a year after Jeter? So
maybe 2021 will be the first ballot. Then we're going to know by percentage.
A-Rod should be on.
Well, here's the other aspect.
So,
the writers hate Barry Bonds.
Right.
They're not big fans of A-Rod. They hate Barry Bonds.
They might not hate him as much, though.
And A-Rod's been in the public. He's a nice guy. People are actually starting to like him.
Yep.
So there's a scene in the other guys where the Marky Mark character shoots Derek Jeter before the World Series game. And he's in like this group therapy meeting with cops that shot somebody.
Nice.
And at one point he's like, I can't believe you shot A-Rod. I lost all this money on the game. I can't believe you shot Jeter. I lost all this money on the game. The other guy goes, you should have shot A-Rod. He's always such a horrible playoff guy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's a nice guy. He's in all these social media stuff. He's
doing a lot of good things.
He's pleasant.
Yep.
And Barry Bonds, when have you heard about him?
Barry Bonds.
The writers hated him.
So here's my question then: is the Hall of Fame based solely upon the play on the field, or is it their personality, their contribution to charity and community?
Well,
and
XYZ. I'm talking about what will happen, not what should happen.
Right.
And the writers have some of the biggest egos on the planet. And they're the writers that put out their ballot and they pontificate about why they're voting for people and why they're not voting for people and what that means about them and society. So, yeah, absolutely it has to do with how the writer feels about them as a person.
But there are some really concrete numbers that, like, there's never been a player with 3,000 hits that's not in, and there's never been a player with 500 home runs that's not in. And both Barry Bonds and A-Rod meet those criteria.
And
so
A-Rod's got 600.
He's got 600 and 3,000.
And Clemens isn't in.
And Clemens has the highest WAR of any non-position player ever, and he's not in. So
Clemens
he's got to be getting close.
Where's the percentage? Here it is. Clemens got 59.5. Clemens and Bonds was 59.1. So Clemens is outpacing Barry Bonds. Take that, Steve.
Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player ever. He's maybe one of my least favorite. The only other I
don't have a problem with him.
I'd argue Bonds or Willie Mays. Maybe Ruth third. I don't know, second, third. It's tough. Different players, different eras. But I loved A-Rod. A-Rod was the biggest pull of every baseball box I ever opened as a kid. In other words, he was literally do you remember the 94 Flair card? That rookie, that prospects rookie? Like the Flair, the Flair.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
with like the crown and like the high gloss, like thicker card stock.
And he had a Wave of the Future. Too.
I loved like chasing that card. Like I remember being like, this was in a lot of ways. People don't realize this. A-Rod was like Ken Griffey Jr.'s younger brother. Like he was like the immediate next best prospect in all of baseball on the same team.
And then what's crazy? Then he went to go play with Jeter.
I know, which is hilarious. Like. Well, and then he had that little pit stop in
Yeah.
Texas that was weird, but like I like Alex Rodriguez. I thought he was, and the fact that people don't even realize like how he lived up to every single bit of the hype around him. Like the only if there wasn't the tarnishment of like some of the off-field stuff and the steroids, like we could literally be talking about as the best player ever.
What did he do off-field that wasn't steroids? I'm trying to think. What? I mean, he dated a bunch of women.
No, I don't think there was
attractive.
Was there ever like some legal issues?
Well, him and Jeter got into a fight, but I don't know how that impacts voting.
Well, I think he was maybe kind of known for being a little bit of a prima donna kind of. Yeah, kind of like I'm the best, and you know.
So we did get a second comment today.
Nice.
On our last video, so now we've gotten 2 comments. Those say comments, so to speak. Chase CHACE. I'm gonna say that Chase Workman. He asked what you guys think about buying on Star Stock.
Great question. I actually just had a customer, Nick. What's up, Nick? He said he listens to all of our podcasts, man. I love it. Nick's a guy. Nick used to work for us in the summer while he played baseball at Memphis.
Oh, cool.
So he collects Memphis players in Memphis jerseys. So
Hardaway. Did you tell him about my Anthony Hardaway?
I did not, but Nick, check out his Hardaway. So Nick's back in town now. He works in the cities. He's from Prior Lake. He brought me onto StarStock on his phone and showed me. So what StarStock does, are you familiar with this?
I know what.
They rank cards that are ungraded, A, B, C, D, and basically what they're saying on a B, they're saying this card's not going to be a mint or better.
Right.
PSA.
Oh, I didn't know they did that. That's smart.
And then what it allows you to do is it actually allows you to buy different classes of condition cards that are ungraded for like lower value cards. So like you can go on and buy 20 $4 Justin Herbert absolutes that are like the C level grade versus the A level
or a dollar,
Yeah. So and the other thing it does is it allows you to do the same thing that ComC does, which is not ever take physical possession of the card, but buy it. It goes into your site, you reprice it, and then sell it.
Yeah.
So it allows some liquidity. Now, this was interesting. I want to bring this up. I forgot about this. For the first time ever on Hulu the other night, I was watching one of the football games. I saw my first ad for sports cards during a sporting event. There's a website it's an app called Card Ladder.
Okay.
And it offers the ability for you to basically inventory your portfolio and track like real-time prices and stuff.
And are you competing with other people, hence the ladder?
No, I think it's just a way. I think it's like you logging into your portfolio of your stocks and seeing it all in one place.
As you build up your thing, you're going up the ladder.
And you can see on a day where the price moves. You can see your value move.
Very cool.
So, but it was interesting. I'm like, it's happened finally. I kept thinking, why haven't sports cards? I've never seen Panini advertised at a sporting event. I've never seen Panini put an ad on a commercial.
Well, in the 90s, there was heavy print ads. Heavy print ads.
I don't see anything
now.
But
not so much television commercial.
And I don't see anything like I do see Panini once in a while online, like eBay obviously is advertise. I think they have some ads on eBay and stuff, but
you would,
which to me was a sign.
Because I do so many print ads. I see on my Rip magazine.
Yep.
And they were heavy print ads, and probably from like 93 to 99, and then like really heavy stadium presence. So like programs and things like that.
Now, did I bring this up last week? We were actually doing like a beginner's class on Saturdays.
Yeah, you brought that up.
We had a bunch of calls this week. It was interesting.
Did you have it?
No, it's coming up a week from this Saturday.
Okay.
But it's interesting how many people we've had call and sign up already. I think it's like
awesome.
Halfway full. I think we're going to take like 12 kids or whatever.
Right.
But this last weekend in the store, I want to bring this up to you, it was the most traffic we've ever had.
Wow.
And I cannot tell you.
You have a very good business with lots of crap.
And we looked around at one point, and there was so many people. I'm like, sports cards are absolutely exploding.
Right.
Like I'm rarely at the shop on Saturdays or Sundays. Usually I take those 2 days off. Sometimes I'm there a little bit on Saturday.
You keep banker hours.
I keep banker.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. I didn't do that for the first 4 years. You try to build that up. Or, the reality is like the excitement around the hobby. I'm floored by it. I'm floored by the continued interest. I keep thinking like it man, we're gonna hit this like plateau, and
Well,
it's like
I'm blown away by the prices because
those are
we're getting absurd in pricing.
Yep.
But I've loved cards since I was 9 years old, and I've always tried to get people into collecting cards.
But now,
and
dude, like,
cards is
hey,
fun.
but dude, now like, it's the coolest thing to do.
No, yeah, I don't know if it's ever really been cool.
It's beyond like. Okay, I'll tell you a story. A buddy of mine that I play poker with. I didn't even know that his brother is a collector. He lives in the Twin Cities. He came in. He goes, "Hey, my brother wants to come and check out the shop. He's never been." He comes into the shop, and I asked him, "I'm like, I've never seen you. Like, have you ever been to a show?" He goes, "I've never been in a shop or to a show as a collector."
I've heard that a couple times already.
He proceeds to open a box. I should show you a picture of some of the stuff with $75,000 worth of cards, and he's like, "These are the ones I want to get rid of." PSA 8 Jordan rookie, Giannis Prism 10 rookies, BGS 10 Giannis. All of his deals, his deals are Facebook groups, and most of them are like trades. So he's like, he goes, "I want to trade up to a PSA 9 Jordan rookie with all this stuff." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you got probably enough to like, they're like 30,000, but whatever."
Sure, Facebook group.
And you know what blew me away is this guy's been heavily collecting basketball since 2013, and I didn't even know he existed. And he's and I'm like, there's another whole world that was never around for collectors that's around now, so i.e. social media, the internet, right?
Absolutely.
Which is afforded
Instagram.
To people to build these collections, and I think he has a pretty well-paying job.
He's not on any radar in terms of people of the real people in the hobby.
And I literally was like, this is the nicest box of cards I've had someone bring in the shop in a year.
Right.
And I've never met you. And your buddy is my brother.
Guys.
You're not. No, he's not a regular at all.
You're not one of the guys.
Which to me tells me something that that's a really good sign. Like the hobby's way stronger than it's like we see the tip of the iceberg at the shows and that shops. Right. But like there's this whole thing.
Let me tell you something about this guy.
Yeah.
Think what happens when he comes back to your shop and he starts building friendships with other collectors at the shop. Yeah. Is that going to make him more into cards or less into cards?
Way more.
Not
only that, we did a trade. He sent off 60-some cards to grade for the first time because everything he had graded, he had obtained already graded. Now he's got some raw stuff he wants to grade. And he likes trading. And I'm like, sweet, man. That's the fun of it. Like, so we did this big trade, and I picked up some cards. And I was like, this thought went through my mind is, how many more people just like him? Way more than we know. And it's not until I actually have that conversation where I even realize that that's the thing. I'm like, I think I know all the collectors in this area. No.
I got one last little piece. Steve told me this today. What up, Steve?
So what's the over-under on shout-outs to Steve?
Shout out. I think it's Owie 3. It's Owie 3. 3.5. 3.5. Because 3 usually happens. Alexander Ovechkin. He's at 706 goals.
Yep.
Currently 8th all time. He, by the end of the year, should be 5th. And
Climbing.
At 5th, he's 150 goals away from Wayne Gretzky.
He'll never get there,
but you don't think he'll get there?
Not even close.
But I gotta tell you this: he's gonna pass Gordie Howe and be number 2.
You mean
he's 100 away from Gordie? He's
Gordie's,
less than 100.
Gordie's 2, not Lemieux. Where's Lemieux?
I thought Lemieux's not even top 5.
What about Jágr? Is Jágr 3?
Jágr is 3. With 766. So he's 60 away from Jágr.
Yep.
And he is 95 from Gordie Howe, which is definitely obtainable. He'll be number 2 for sure. Steve thinks he's going to get the record. I think it's a stretch because he's 35.
He's not going to catch Gretzky, but...
Because he's going to need 50 goals a season for 4 more seasons, and he'll be 39 already. That's a little rough.
And let's be honest, 50 is like...
Oh, yeah.
That's high for him. What did he have last year? I think he had...
He had 50. He had like 52.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't like
the
60.
The question is how quick does it drop off?
Yeah.
Because if he gets 50 the next 2, but then he gets 30, it's like...
Yeah, I think he's definitely number 2 on the list. Now, how deep can he get into number 2 is the question, but card-wise, I looked it up. There hasn't been any USA sales of a Young Guns 10 since November.
Wow.
But there's been some 4 or 5 Canadian sales.
You know what's interesting about Ovechkin, too?
$4,000. Young Gun 10.
Wow.
Particularly affordable. I mean, compared to...
Current players on hockey, too.
Yeah, no doubt. So it's an interesting guy to keep on your radar.
Let me throw something out about Ovechkin. Interesting reality about his young gun.
Yeah.
His young gun is in 2005. It's the same year as Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, right.
So you have literally the best two players of this generation in the same
set.
So think about an unopened box from that year.
Oh,
what that would be. You know what I'm saying?
Look that up. So it would be 2004,
2005
or 2005, 2006?
5-6. Yep, 5-6.
2005, 2006. Now we're going to get some dead air because we're looking up. Now, this is very much, so we always wanted you to podcast as a conversation.
Yep.
This is normally how we do conversation. Hold on, let me look at that.
Yeah, hold on. Let me
2005, 06.
So the last sale, I see a PSA 10 that sold on December 27th for $3,000. Is that the one you're referring to or no?
Yeah, well there's a 4,000
4,000,
sale,
okay.
but with a Canadian sale.
Yep,
so that's going to mess with the price a little bit.
You know what's funny? He really looks like Jaromir Jagr in the photo of his young gun. Like, if
wow.
you look at it, you're like, is that Jaromir Jagr? Oh, no, it's
Let's see what we got here. We got... Problem is, Upper Deck had 1 million products that year. So hopefully I can find the base Upper Deck. It might have been nice for me to look this up before the podcast. Oh, here. Flair Ultras, $300 a box, which that seems really affordable. I'm trying to find a hobby box. Here we go. Oh, wow. Listen to this. Talking about affordability. 05, 06 Upper Deck Series 1. Now, it has Crosby in the title, so I'm wondering if Ovechkin and Crosby weren't in the same series. So that's the question, but $1,100 for a hobby box, which in today's world is cheap.
I'll be honest.
It's cheaper than a box of Prism football.
I'll be honest. That box, buying it and keeping it unopened, has the potential to
be a massive gainer.
It has the potential to be at what's a box of Gretzky's rookie year go for? Let's look it up. 1979 tops. I'm just saying, but you get two guys versus just Gretzky. Because Crosby Young Gun 10s are like $3,000 too.
So it looks like Series 2 has Ovechkin, Series 1 has Crosby. So they're not in the same box. And the Ovechkin box last sale was $700 from Canada. And then $500.
So
$500.
You don't get them in the same box, man. That would have been something.
Look at $535 for a Series 2 Ovechkin box.
Wow.
It seems to me like that might be a real target for future price increases.
So Ovechkin's Russian. That is a little bit of a downside if he was Canadian. I think over being Canadian.
Crosby's American. Or Canadian. Maybe.
I think Crosby's Canadian. He went to high school here at the school in Faribault.
Cool. I didn't know that.
What's the name? The private school. The private hockey school.
The deaf school there. That's all I know.
The private hockey school where all these guys, Parisi and all those guys went. Shattuck St. Mary's.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So, which actually I want to say like Martin Brodeur's son, I think, is there right now, and like cool. a lot of these NHL guys' kids come to Minnesota to go there. But yeah, so Crosby is like known by all the locals.
Plays for Pittsburgh too,
and
that's a thing. That's a real thing.
Now,
that's like playing for the Patriots.
Yeah, but I mean, Washington getting that cup was big. Obviously, Oshie and there's.
No, but I'm thinking 535, 575. Well, that's the retail box. I'm sorry. These are retail boxes.
Hobby are going to be significantly more. Probably, probably 1,000.
These are all retail boxes that are 500. Let me go to high, because that's going to be where the hobby is. There is no hobby for sale. So I don't know. Let
me just throw out a box of 79 Topps hockey Gretzky, not the OPG, but Topps. Right. Sealed box, BBCE wrapped, sold for $11,000. So I mean, obviously it's
Gretzky.
Even
that seemed kind of affordable.
Wow. But where are we in cards when $11,000?
A year ago, I'd be like $11,000 for a box of cards. Now it's like, well, I don't know. That's a case of Prism football.
Yeah, I would love a box of 79 hockey. I do not have a Gretzky rookie in my collection yet, and listen to this, dude. I was at Rising Star in Oakdale like a year and a half ago, and they had a BGS 6.
They're a gaming shop in the Twin Cities.
And they had a BGS 6 BVG 6 because it's vintage. They put BVG on
yeah.
it. And it was pretty nice, and it had high subs. And at the time, they had like 300 or 400 on it. And I was like, I literally offered the guy like $50 less, and he wouldn't come down at all. And I just, and,
Well, yeah,
and I
the
just
Gretzky rookie. I don't care.
And I was like, I wanted a PSA graded one kind of, and I was like, I don't really want to crack it out, whatever.
It's almost like offering $625 for a Shaq Beam Team second.
Literally, like I can't.
What's that worth now?
Double at least more.
1,000.
Let's
over
actually
1,000.
let's look it up.
And then what had happened? Oh yeah, that big Gretzky sale is now the highest price hot card ever. So then that helps out the lower graded cards.
Yeah, a BVG 6 just sold for $2,000.
Yeah,
that was 350.
Almost quadruple.
Oh.
But we can say that about a lot of cards.
I sold a PSA 7 to a customer this spring for like $2,000. That now is probably worth. Yeah, Gretzky.
More than that.
I sold to Gretzky PSA 7.
Evan's over here dying.
Oh, well, last one just sold for $3,200. So it's not like double yet, but it's still more.
Yeah, can you imagine? Oh, now, how about this? You just looked up a card that you sold for $2,000 that's now worth $3,200, and for you, that's not that bad.
Yeah,
you haven't lost out that much.
It could be worse.
It could be quadruple.
There's worse. There's worse options.
That's hilarious. I'm out of stuff.
Well, that's good stuff. No, I mean, I'm looking forward to feedback. Definitely make sure you subscribe if you're listening. Send it to your friends. We just want to get the word out.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, we love these questions. Like, so far, we've gotten really good question prompts. And
yeah. Keep them coming.
I'll answer every question you guys put out there.
Keep coming. We'll even do just a whole Q&A one if we get enough of them. So.
Absolutely.
Have a great night, guys.
Thanks for listening.